I don't want to rob people that are poor. So I would go to Santa Monica, Venice Beach, Bel Air, Beverly Hills. I'm literally in Hollywood living like a little GTA life. I'm getting away from cops and I'm breaking into houses and I'm breaking into cars. And listen, just about any near-death experience is a catalyst for change. So growing up, my mom and dad, my mother is phenomenal. So let me preface everything with saying she did everything she could to be the best mother she can be. But, my mom and dad, so dope, did dope, a lot of domestic violence. And so even though we had everything we ever wanted financially, my dad used to beat my mom real bad, so we used to have to sleep on the streets. Many a night, me and my mom, my brother, were sleeping at my elementary school. We're running from my dad. And so all my life I would hear, "I'm not your real dad anyway, Gary Mullins is." And so from a very young age, this need for validation, this need for attention, which kind of carried throughout my criminal life, was very prevalent and present. And so at 16, I get shot. Me and this kid were going to fight. I'm waiting in my school bus. Now, mind you, prior to this, I was terrible in school. I was always suspended. I get shot, and of
How
course,
does that happen? What do you mean you get shot? Like,
so me and this kid were going to fight, and he didn't want to fight. And so he's walking by the bus stop. Now, mind you, that morning, my mom and dad were arguing. And I had tried to put my sock on the right way, and it wouldn't go on. I don't know why. And so I'm banging it up against the wall. I hit my hand. I'm already frustrated. So I pull up to the bus stop with my mom and my brother and a friend, and I see this guy that I don't like walking down the way. And I'm like, I'm going to go say something to him. I'm not really mad at him. I'm mad at everything going on in my life. So I get to the bus stop, and he's walking by, and he's staring me down, and I'm like, yo, what's up with it? What's going on? And he comes up, and we start arguing, and he's trying to get me to go around the corner, unbeknownst to me what's about to happen. And so we're arguing, we're about to fight. He pulls a gun out. I'm mad, I'm not tough. I'm not a thug. I wear my seatbelt. You can't be a seatbelt. You can't be a thug and wear a seatbelt. It don't work like that.
all right.
So when he pulls this gun out, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't even know if I knew it was real. It was an old cowboy 22. And so I took my book bag off and was like, I know you didn't just pull a gun out on me. And I was going to go still off on him. I was going to swing on him. And
Did you think maybe like he's not going to, well, he won't do it.
I've thought about it so many times. I don't know if I thought the gun was fake. I don't know if self-preservation is the key to life. So as much as I may not be this hard thug type, I'm going to defend myself. Or maybe he's the B word and he's not going to do it, And so I was wrong. I took my book bag off, was going to swing on him. Next thing I heard was pew, because it was a 22. There was no bang. It didn't burn. Didn't know if I was shot. He walks away. He's yelling something. I don't remember what it was. I pull my shirt up, my best friend and my brother right beside me, and I'm like, am I shot? And my friend's like, nah, you're good. I said, nah, something's going on here, man. Am I shot? And he's like, you are. Instantly, it felt like the worst stomach cramp you could ever imagine. They said they've never seen my brother run so fast. My best friend said he's never seen a human being run so fast. My brother runs down to our house. All I know is I didn't know what to do. The pain was extreme, so I fall to the ground. And a friend of mine, God rest his soul, used to joke and tell people that I went like this. And it was hilarious. And so, yeah, now I'm shot. Nobody ever thought little Jimmy Nichols was going to get shot. I wasn't like a terrible kid in the sense that I'm fighting all the time. I was just thirsty for validation. And my affinity for shock value gets me in a lot of trouble. So I was always the class clown.
Where were you shot though? What part of you
Right here on my chest.
in your chest?
Yep.
Just below your pecs? Like,
Yeah, right
like
there.
in your,
Yep.
Did it hit?
Technically the chest, but kind of like the stomach. It went through my liver, nicked my kidney, and it's still in my back now. And it was a 22, and I had met a cop from New York who had spent 22 years on the force, ironically. And he said, I've never met a person take a bullet to the liver and survive.
Yeah, I was going to say that's that. And what's so funny? I always watch this, and I'm sure you know this. It kills me when you watch these movies and they're like, we've got to get the bullet out. I'm like, they usually leave the bullets in. Like, if there's no reason for us to go digging around, the bullet's not bothering you, as long as it's not close to your spine or something, and you don't have like rejection or anything. Like, if it's not causing problems, we really just need to kind of stitch up the organs and make sure there's no internal bleeding, but the bullet's probably fine where it is. You could do more damage trying to get that bullet out. Thank you to Aura for sponsoring this video. Did you know that Dell had a breach that exposed over 3.9 million customer records, including sensitive personal information? Then Ticketmaster had 560 million records compromised, but the scariest one is national public data. Just a few months ago, they suffered a massive breach, potentially impacting every American. Over 2.9 billion records exposed. Things like full name, address, date of birth, phone numbers, and even social security numbers. Those records didn't just disappear. The hackers released them online for free. So if you think your data is safe, think again. That's why I use Aura, today's sponsor. Aura is an all-in-one digital security platform that monitors your personal data, including your social security number, across billions of data points. They'll alert you if anything sensitive shows up, whether it's on the dark web or in public records. And if the worst happens, Aura has you covered with up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. But it doesn't just stop there. Aura offers you so much more to keep you safe online. Things like real-time breach alerts, a VPN for secure browsing, data broker opt-outs to stop companies from selling your information, and even a password manager to help you create and store strong passwords. Right now, your personal information could be floating around the internet, but you could head to aura.com/Matt and try Aura for 2 weeks free. In just 2 weeks, Aura will tell you if any of your personal data is exposed. You don't want to wait for your data to be leaked to realize you need protection. Do yourself a favor. Go to aura.com/Matt to get your free trial and start protecting what's yours today.
I think that they said because I had on multiple layers, I'm also fat, and so I have thick skin. I know, right?
Stop.
I also have thick skin. And so it stopped. Barely any blood. No blood. I mean, there was a drip of blood. So it was kind of like, I remember riding to the hospital. The ambulance didn't pick me up. Some guy at a funeral home next door, ironically, backed up, put me in his car.
Put me in the hearse. Like,
I know, right?
Hey, we're not there yet.
I don't know this guy. I've never seen him since. There's a place in Hebrews that says, be careful how you treat others, for some have entertained angels that didn't know it. You can't tell me that this guy wasn't sent from God to save my life. So he's driving me to the hospital. He's rushing down Washington Street on the west side of Charleston, West Virginia. And of course, I'm like, am I going to die? And I just remember the most peace coming over me. He put his hand on me, said, you're going to be okay. So I get to the hospital. My mom gets there. Of course, everyone's crying. People are frustrated. People are upset. And then I hear these doctors tell me, well, we don't know if it was a bullet or just a high-powered pellet. I was pissed. I was like, you mean to tell me that I went through all of this for a pellet gun? At least I could tell people I got shot.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Yeah, but I really got shot. And so after I got shot, just about any near-death experience is a catalyst for change. Definitely a catalyst for like a deeper spiritual awakening, if you will.
Okay.
So I fell deeply in love with the Lord. And I started doing poetry. And I started doing poetry all over my state, working with kids. I was in my room one day, crying, angry, frustrated about the kid that shot me. I couldn't play basketball. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't do anything. And I was reading Romans chapter 12, verses 14 through 21. And it talked about, don't repay evil for evil. Vengeance is the Lord's. If your enemy is thirsty, give him something to drink. When I tell you that in an instant, my heart went from anger and sadness to empathy and sympathy. I started crying for this kid. I started praying for this kid. I reached out to his family to try to get a hold of him. He called me from jail and was like, what's up, bro? And I was like, I just want to apologize to you. He's like, why are you apologizing to me? I shot you. I said, yeah, but I used to pick on you. I used to start stuff with you too. And I just wanted to tell you that I'm sorry. It blew his mind. Now, at this time, I was the youth team leader for an organization called Chain Breakers. My old mentor.
How old were you?
I was 16.
No, you were still at 16 when this happened, when you had that call?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I figured this was 10 years later.
No, that was my 10th grade year. The summer going into my 11th grade year, I had met a man named Andy Palmer. who I love to this day. He was a mentor of mine who had got out of prison, and he had started his own organization called Chain Breakers. Him and other guys that have been in prison would go around the schools and share their testimony with kids. They would work with kids. He saw me while he was doing his story at the Boys and Girls Club. I walked up, introduced myself, and he said, "Hey, you're the kid that got shot." And I said, "I am." He said, "I've been looking for you." He said, "Yeah, I grew up with your family." He said, "What do you think about going and talk to kids?" So I would love to do that. I had already got on stage at my high school and did a whole poem, 6-minute poem, no piece of paper, straight off the top of not off the top of my head, but memorized, about standing up for Jesus, about doing the right thing. The day after I had chose to forgive the kid that shot me, I came to school, right? You know, I wrote apology letters to kids. I was apologizing to teachers. Something in me transmorphed. Something in me became new. As I'm talking to Andy, I'm like, "Hey, you go into the juvenile centers, right?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You think you could find this kid for me? I would love to go see him." The juvenile centers wouldn't let us happen because it was a conflict of interest. But when he got out of prison, me and him with Andy would go to schools and share our story with kids. So it's like,
this is the guy that shot me.
yeah. So I would come out.
Was it like a bit where he'd go, you know?
God rest your soul, Stevie. I wish Stevie was here. Stevie would love that. And so that was the friend that used to do that. He used to irritate me with it. So I would come out. I would always share poetry. I'm very, very good with it. And so I would also share a little bit of my story. And then as I'm saying, "Hey, I forgave the kid that shot me," 2 seconds later, here comes this kid out, and I'm the one that shot him. And the look on these kids' faces to watch two kids that come from the hood where generally that's not how the story goes. Generally, it's eye for an eye, get you before you get me, or get you before you get me again. And so, yeah, we would go share stories with kids. Now, I don't know what ended up happening with him. I would love to find out what happened with him, but I think he went his own way. Now I'm traveling the state with Andy. I'm on TV, radio, churches, juvenile centers. I got a full ride to college. And at this time, from 16, 17, 18, I'm not smoking, I'm not drinking, I'm just trying to serve the Lord and help people, man. That's all I wanted to do. At 18, when I graduated college, they said, "Look, all the work you've done in the community, we want to give you a full ride to college." I could have went anywhere if I had the grades. The board of directors was like, "You think you can get into Harvard?" I was like, "Nah, that's not happening. I just want to go to Bible college." And I got sprung on now my ex-wife, the mother of my 4 children, and I didn't want to leave. And so I stayed locally and didn't do anything with it. If you've ever been young and in love, it clouds your decision-making.
I've been old and in love, and it clouds your decision-making. So, yeah.
I've had my decision-making clouded for more things than just love. So at 18, I also found out that my dad's not my real dad.
Yeah, you had to see that coming. Right, because he said it over and over again when he would get drunk or
yeah.
Did you think he was just saying it to be an asshole?
I did.
Oh, really? Okay.
I did, but I also always recognized that I was different from my family. Not in a way that's better. I love my mom and my brother, and I love my stepdad, who I only call stepdad for reference. I call him dad. He passed away, God rest his soul. He put us through a lot, but you know what? He raised a son that didn't belong to him. He's the reason I'm so affectionate with my children.
Right.
Because he would love on me. He would hug me. But it was confusing because on one hand, you're loving me, you know, kisses and hugs and all these things fathers do. But on the other hand, I'm not your real dad anyway. So I had to learn at a very young age how to pick my battles. I've been a pretty big dude since I was 12 years old. So from the moment I gained some size, you're not putting your hands on my mother, homie. I don't care who you are, where you're from. I'm going to fight you to the death. But I had to learn how to start picking my battles. I used to pick cups on the wall when they would argue. Because if it's just verbal assault to her, I would have to just listen to it.
Right.
Because the moment I get involved, then it becomes more.
Right. Now the cops are coming. Right.
Well, the cops rarely ever came, but now we're out on the streets. Now he's actually fighting me and he's fighting my mom. And so when I found out that he wasn't my real dad, it was like all my life this puzzle was sitting right here and magically it just came together. So it made sense. Now I meet my real dad. And
how'd that happen? What do you like? First of all, how you're given you're giving the talk that you give when you go into a prison right now, because you got 45 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't have 45 minutes. We've got hours.
Got you.
So how did you find out that he wasn't your real dad? And how did you find your real dad? Like, did you go find him?
No. Okay. So
You find out it was just the next door neighbor. I've seen him my whole life. He's mowing the yard.
I questioned for years my mother. She didn't allow nobody to sign neither one of my brother's birth certificates. So there's no father on neither one of ours.
Right.
Now, the story we were given is if anything were to ever happen, I didn't want anybody able to hold claim to you. And I think that was true too. Well, for years, I questioned if he's my real dad. I mean, I'm hearing this from him, so something's got to be wrong. Andy Palmer. I'm driving down the street one day, and I was frustrated. Now, Andy knew a little bit of what was going on in my life, but of course, I'm a kid going through domestic violence. I don't want to talk about it to people. And so I told him what he said about Gary Mullins. Unbeknownst to me, Andy grew up with Gary Mullins. He took one look at me and said, "Oh, you're definitely Gary's son. There's no question in my mind." So that's like the first big puzzle piece. Not to mention being told this all my life. I called my aunt, who was actually down here, God rest her soul, before she passed, in Orlando. And I asked her, and she said, "Baby, I know your mom's never going to tell you the truth, so I'm going to tell you, yeah, Gary's your real dad." So now at this point, it's getting confirmed more and more. And I'm crying. I'm frustrated. I mean, it's like I exited the Matrix. You mean to tell me for 18 years, I've dealt with you putting your hands on my mother? For 18 years, I have to walk through the streets crying, wondering what's going on? And so then I called my grandmother. And it was my grandmother that kind of sealed the deal for me, because she said, "Baby, that's a conversation you need to have with your mother."
Yeah, you might as well have just said, yeah.
So I finally go to my mother. Now I have evidence. Now I have backup. It's like, okay, I don't just have this hunch anymore. So I go to her and I'm like, "Listen, you can tell me what you want to tell me. You can feed me what you want to feed me. But I kind of already know. And you're not doing me or you any justice if you continue to hide this from me." And so I asked, and she finally said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, where is he? Who is he?" She said, "He lives down the street."
Right? See?
He lives down the street.
I see him mowing every Saturday. He mows his yard. That's it.
You know what's crazy is I watched my mom pull a gun on a man when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
I didn't know who the man was. I never forgot about him. As we pulled up to a 7-Eleven, she was going in the store to get me some Zoom Zooms and Wham Whams, whatever. And I saw her pull a revolver on a man. Didn't even know my mom had a gun.
Right.
Never saw this man again until I meet my real dad. He swears up and down it wasn't him. I know it was him. My mom confirmed it, and I know the feeling I had when I saw that man. I knew that man was somebody important. My mom drove me down to where she thought they lived. And it was a place called North Charleston, which is right beside Charleston, where I'm from. And I knock on the door, and a lady comes to the door, and it's my mama, Mary. And the moment she saw me, she broke because she knew. Then I'm sitting there with her, and then my Papa Joe comes home. And this man, they told me that this man's been praying for me my whole life. And so I'm just overwhelmed with this love from them. And then they tell me, "You know, you have a little sister named Camille." And I was like, "What?" And so I want to say I met my aunts and uncles before I met my real dad. And maybe it took a couple of days. We had to come back, and I came. When I saw him walk through the door, I knew. I was like, "Oh, I look just like you. You're my real dad. You're my real dad." And we did a lot of catching up, you know? And of course the blame game was there at first, which I understood, you know? I felt for him. I've always been empathetic towards people. So it doesn't matter if what you've done has impacted me in some type of way. I want to know what led you to these decisions.
Right.
Come to find out he was an addiction my whole life. You know what I mean? He did the best with what he had, you know, for me and my little sister. He ended up going to prison for like 10 years for kidnapping. And he was taking this old guy, and he would come to him every day and make him go to the bank and take out $2,000. So later in my life, as I'm becoming a criminal myself, it's like, well, no wonder I'm able to become a criminal. It's throughout my whole entire lineage. Like, I come from criminals. So that threw me for a loop. That started me down a spiral. I started smoking Black and Mouths again. which doesn't seem like much, but at the time I was doing nothing. I started drinking again. I started smoking. And then my mom was making moves across the country, for lack of better terms.
Mm-hmm.
And she had got hemmed up in Detroit. I'm in love with the mother of my children, and we're about to pop out our first baby. I'm smoking.
That's pop out. That's horrible, bro. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, we went half on a couple babies. And so I'm smoking, I'm drinking. 2011, they wrote me a script of Percocet because my wisdom teeth had been taken out.
Okay.
And it was on from there. Now I'm doing this. And I remember the first time I had snorted one. Not only did the pain leave physically, but now a bunch of other pain that I didn't even realize I had was starting to leave. Now I'm feeling really, really good about myself, not only because I'm on this opiate, but now I'm not having to think about the fact that I just found out about not having a real father. Now I don't have to think about the fact that my mom's in a situation I don't know if she's going to get out of. And now I'm on them, and they kind of take over my whole attention. And then, you know, she had my first son, and now she has my second son. And everybody knew me as Jimmy the Poet. You know, you're traveling, talking to kids. You know right from wrong, bro. I didn't know what was going on with me. Now she has my daughter. By the time she has my daughter, it got a little deeper with the pills. Now I find out what 30s are, blue 30s. And now I'm into a deeper addiction with pills. Now I'm traveling across Charleston. I'm breaking into cars. I'm over here stealing from stores. I would go in there, get a bottle of Similac formula. I don't know why Kroger's was allowing me to do it.
What is Similac formula?
It's a baby formula.
Oh, okay.
I would go in there. It's like a $30 bottle, $30 box. And I would take it straight to the front. No receipt. Just give them some story. Like, hey, you know, I can't find the receipt and this is not the right one, but, you know, somebody went ahead and got us the right one that we needed. I really need to return this. They would give me the money. That was able to pull off a couple times. This was able to get me the pills that I needed.
They were enabling you.
Huh?
They were enabling you.
Oh, 1,000%. I know, right?
Kroger's.
I know. And so I want to say maybe 2012, 2013. This is after I've already got 3 kids. I'm not taking care of my kids the way I need to be. My kid's mom is struggling by herself.
What are you doing for money?
It's just whatever I can. Now, mind you, like my people so dope. And so I don't really have to do a whole lot to get what I need because they have what I need. However, how am I going to pay bills? How am I going to take care of these kids? I'm basically being a bum, bro. I'm living off my mom. My mom's helping me take care of the kids financially because they got it. You know what I mean? And so it was maybe 2013. I went to go get a Roxy from somebody, and they didn't have one. And I was dope sick. Now, I had never seen H in my life up until this time, which what we call dog food where I'm from. I had never seen dog food. So I go to get this 30 from him, and he doesn't have it, but he's chopping up this chalky white substance. And when he told me what it was, I left and I cried because I'm very close to this person. And I'm like, man, I've never seen that stuff in my life. Unbeknownst to me, I've been doing synthetic versions for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
It's like you got guys that sip lean and then want to judge H users.
Just because they're mixing your shit up in a lab and these guys are pulling off a plant doesn't make
We're
much
both
of a
still
difference.
itching, bro.
Right.
Like, miss me with the BS, you know? And so I was just too dope sick, bro. So I came back and I did it. And now I'm on dog food.
Mm-hmm.
And now I am getting deeper and deeper. And so 2014, I have 3 dads. I have my stepdad that raised me. I have my biological father. And then I have a man that I call dad, which is like a spiritual leader. He actually lives in Ocala. And at this time, he was in Los Angeles starting up a church, or at least taking over a church. And I call him, and I'm like, look, I'm on H. I'm on dog food. And he's like, wow. He may have shed a tear. I don't remember. He's like, so what are you going to do? And I remember the first time I called programs. Like I called Teen Challenge, and they're like, yeah, our program is a year. I got off the phone and cried. It's like, I don't want to leave my kids for a year. What are you doing for them in the first place?
I was going to say, what are you doing? What does it matter? Like,
I mean, the thwarted mind of addiction.
You're in your current state, you're useless to them. You know what I'm saying? You're a burden.
More than anything.
Yeah.
And so
that's just selfishness. That's
very
huge.
much.
Yeah.
Well, addiction is a disease of self-centered and selfishness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I called my dad and I'm like, look, this is the only options I have. He said, well, you want to come out here? And I said, look, you're not doing anything for or to the kids in the first place, so it's not going to harm anything. Why don't we get you out here? You got a gift. Let's start getting you around the right people. And I'm like, all right. So I talked to my kid's mom, and everybody's like, whoa, why do you need to go all the way to California? Why can't you just go to a rehab here? Now, mind you, at this time, I don't know anything about anything when it comes to addiction. I don't even know that I'm an addict. You know what I mean? I just know that I like to get high, and I continue to get high so that I don't get dope sick. But I find myself doing things what we call incomprehensible demoralization. I find myself doing things that I never would have done so that I'm not dope sick. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that may be understandable, I guess, but it's not an excuse because ultimately I have to pay the consequences for these decisions that I make. So he's like, look, I don't know anything about addiction. Why don't we get you into a program? So 2014, around May, I leave. I go to California for the first time. Now I'm in Skid Row in Los Angeles in a program called the Midnight Mission. And
the what?
The Midnight Mission.
Midnight. Okay. I thought you said midnight. I was like, I don't know.
The Midnight Mission. Man, they're so dope. I met Smokey Robinson through them. They have a celebrity golf tournament every year where they raise a bunch of money. Now at this time, I think H is my problem. I didn't realize I was the problem. So for 6 months, I'm in this program. I'm still smoking trees. Mm-hmm. I'm still snorting pills. It's the first time I learned how to parachute a pill, where you break it down, you put it into a 1-ply piece of toilet paper, you swallow that, and then maybe 30 seconds later, it kind of hits you all at once. And so, but I'm not doing H. And so in my mind, I'm getting better. Telling my kids, their mom, yo, this is what's going on. Life is going great. I'm not telling them that I'm doing these other things.
Right.
I'm not telling anybody.
You're supplementing the H or the H for the other stuff. Yeah.
I'm faking the funk.
Yeah.
At the 6-month mark, they wanted to test me. They're like, yo, I need you to come take this test. They were about to give me a job behind the double doors, which was like this prestigious thing. In everybody else's eyes, I was doing pretty good. But I'm hiding. I'm being secretive. Which is one of the cruxes of addiction, period, is we like to hide. We're secretive because whether it's the guilt, shame, or I can't let you know what I really got going on, or I'm not going to be able to continue with the schemes and the scamming, you know what I mean, to get what I need. And so they drug test me, and I didn't even let them drug test me. I just was like, I'm going to let you know now I'm dirty. And they're like, really? So they're like, all right, you can either leave or you can start over. Now, this is 6 months. I'm supposed to only be here for a year. I don't know what to tell my wife. I don't know what to tell my kids. I'm like crushed on the inside because what do I feel like? A complete failure, which is a feeling I felt plenty of times in my life. And so I told him, I said, all right, I'll start over. So now I go from the second dorm where I have my own little bunk, my own little TV, back into the first dorm with 150 men in bunk beds. And so, of course, pride and ego were killed. And I sit there for about another month. Now, mind you, I've yet to tell my kid's mom anything that's going on. And after about a month, I said, I can't do it. I miss my kids. I want to go home. Maybe this much removed from the dog food, I'll be okay. So I got Catholic Charities to pay for a bus ticket, and I moved back home. It took maybe a day or two before I started doing H again. And when she found out that I had because actually my dad busted me out. Thanks, Bishop. He had called her and was like, listen, I'm not going to let him lie to you. He started over. He got caught.
Right.
And I think sometimes that's what we need in our life. Is somebody that's not willing to play those games with us.
Yeah.
Because I'm the type of guy, like, I'm not going to bust you out if you're cheating on your wife. Don't ask me to lie for you.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
won't do it because if you're my homie and you're cheating your wife, I already don't trust you.
Yeah, don't put me in that position.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And
a friend's not shouldn't put you in that position.
who are you most vulnerable with? The person you pillow talk with.
Yeah.
So if you're the most vulnerable with them and you'll do them dirty, you'll definitely do me dirty. So he busted me out to her and she was crushed. And, you know, I'm still trying to manage, like, I am not a representative for AA or any 12-step recovery, but there's a part in some of the literature that talks about the mind of the addict and alcoholic wants to be the producer, the director, the screenwriter, and the actor in his own show. And so that's what my life was like. I'm trying to be the puppeteer, but I'm trying to puppeteer everybody. I'm trying to puppeteer here. I'm trying to make sure this works. I make sure this story lines up with this. I'm trying to, you know, coddle your emotions so you don't really see me for who I am, and none of it works. But, you know, we think we're able to do it. And it's like plugging holes on a leaky boat. And one hole comes up, you got to plug another. And so I end up getting a job. Things start to look up. They give me a job installing cable for some company. But every place I go to, I'm robbing them. I'm stealing pills. I remember I was in one house and I found 500 opiates. And they were all expired. And they were like within like 4 to 5 different big bottles. They were like 90 count scripts, but they're expired. I took
They're
them.
still good.
Oh, yeah. Look, you can't tell me nothing. Ain't nobody gonna
they're
know.
still good.
I mean, I've got a year-old amoxicillin at the house right now for emergencies.
Yeah.
So I start tucking them. And then one place I find a gun. So I grab it.
Jeez.
Now, at this time, this is the very, very beginning stages of me becoming a criminal.
Right.
So I don't know a lot of things. Stole a Movado watch from my house. Stealing money. Where I messed up.
Stole a Movado watch from a house?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said my house. Did it sound like my house? I thought, well, it's
I thought about it, but when I pulled up, you were really nice to me. So I was like, I'm not going to take his
not
watch.
my house. I meant you said,
I'll
okay,
just
go
play
ahead.
it. And so one house that I'm 3 days removed from getting my own truck on my last day of training.
Mm-hmm.
We go to this house out in the country. And if I was smart, I wouldn't have done this stuff, period.
Right.
But if I was smart, I would have scoped out what I wanted to take, and I would have taken it right before I left. This idiot right here decided, the moment I walked in the house, I started finding stuff, found a revolver, and found some Dre beats. So what do? I tuck it, I take it out to the car within like 20 minutes of us being there. And this is about to be like an hour-long job. So I hide it in the back of the car. We're in there, he's teaching us how to crimp wires, doing all this stuff I don't even remember, but, we're installing cable in these people's houses. We go outside to get a tool. We come back into the house. Lady's got a gun sitting on the counter. She's like, both of you sit down. Snaps. She's like, where's my gun? I'm from the west side of Charleston, West Virginia, lady. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know nothing, and I don't know anybody that knows anything. One of you have my gun because it's missing from my drawer, and I want it right now, or we're going to have a major problem. I don't know nothing. I was always taught, ask for a lawyer.
Mm-hmm.
So
this isn't a court of law.
I mean, I know, but to me, it was like, yo, I don't know anything. I'm not talking to nobody. And so she's like, all right, I want you both out of my house. Do not leave. The cops are on their way. And she's on the phone with her husband. Now her husband's coming home. I immediately went to the back of the cop car. Went to the back of our work truck. I grabbed the gun. I grabbed the Dre beats. I'm waiting. Nobody's looking. Throw it over the hill. I'm like, okay, we're good now. Cops come. And the lady's like, I don't know what he did, but he has it. One of them has it. Maybe he threw it over the hill. I'm like, did she see me? I'm like, what? Thought I was slick. The cops go over the hill and they find it. Now, I was all fine with keeping my mouth shut until I got to the jail and asking for a lawyer. But my trainee, he was about to go to the military. He was a relatively new father. He's a square dude that had nothing to do with anything. And this was the first time I had ever really been in trouble with the law. And I just could not see myself allowing him to take the fall for what I had just did. So I told him I did it. So of course they arrest me and they take me to jail. Ironic, I've been in and out of LA County jail so many times. I've never been to jail in my own home city. My brother came and bailed me out from the police substation before I ever made it to county. And I'm fighting this case. They're getting me for residential burglary. I decided, you know what? I probably need to go back to California. Not to run. I waited until everything was settled. They ended up dropping that residential burglary to a petty theft because, as you may know, they have to prove certain elements of a crime.
Yeah, I don't have it in my possession. I don't have it in the vehicle. I don't have it. It's over you found it over the fucking hill.
They couldn't prove prior intent, and I had permission to be in the home.
Oh,
and so that they couldn't prove residential burglary. Now, knowing what I know now, then I would have just kept my mouth shut, period. Well, knowing what I know now, then I wouldn't have been doing this stupid stuff. And so when I found out that it got dropped to petty larceny, he was like, all right. I remember telling my kid's mom the first time I ever said, I'm going to California. That hurt. When I had to tell her the second time, that crushed me. Because not only do I feel like a failure as a man, I feel like a failure as a husband. I feel like a failure as a father. I have all of these emotions inside of me. I love my kids, bro. Like, who doesn't love their kids? There's nothing really to brag about. But, like, I really genuinely love my kids. And all I want to do is be better for them. But I don't know what I'm doing. For a lack of better terms, I am literally lost in the sauce. So I go back to California. And now I'm living in a shelter. And I'm doing okay.
So why are you going back to California? Like, I don't. Is it because you want to get out of the environment that you're in?
That was definitely a part of it. At the time, I didn't know how true this was. I felt like God had something there for me.
Okay.
And I know that sounds funny, but
I think it probably sounds funny to other people. It doesn't sound funny to me, but go ahead.
Well, I think a lot of the times we think that the path God has for us is going to be wrapped in rainbows and ribbons.
Right.
And it very rarely works out that way.
Yeah, sometimes you have to climb through a river of shit to get to it.
Or quite literally go through the desert.
Right.
The wilderness, like many of biblical characters had to do. Jesus himself had to go through the wilderness. And so literally I'm out in California, which is quite literally a desert and a wilderness. And so I moved back out there. Now for like 3 months, I'm working, I'm selling solar, I'm sober. I legitimately didn't have any substances in me. You know, I got my little food stamps, my little GR, which in California, it's crazy because in West Virginia, now you can, but for the longest, no grown single man was getting food stamps in West Virginia.
Right.
California, you can go there and get GR food stamps. GR is general relief, so you get cash assistance every month. So I got that. Yeah, it's crazy. So I got that. I got a job, and I was doing okay. Doing okay in the sense of not having substances in my body. So they wanted to come out, my kids and my wife. And they did. So now we go into this program called the Dream Center, which is a big Christian ministry in Echo Park. They have a rehab. They have discipleship program. They had a family floor. And so we are now on this family floor, and all we have to do is work or go to school. We don't have to pay no rent. We just have to work, go to school, make it to a certain amount of church services, and save up money. I don't know if it was the pressure. I don't know what it was, but maybe like 30 days into that, I got kicked out because I had relapsed because I started smoking crystal. And so I remember when they kicked me out and I looked at that building. Now, I don't believe I ever would have left my wife and kids in that situation if they weren't in a safe, protected environment, because it was a very safe and protected environment. But looking at that building, I just cried because I was like, you know what? I'm never going to be good for them or to them. The best thing I could do is just exit their life. And so what do? I hit the streets of Skid Row. This is around 2015 now. I'm in Skid Row. I'm smoking crystal. I'm stealing from stores. I remember the first time that people they would go to Home Depot. They would steal a drill bit. That's like $90. They would give it to somebody else to trade in with their ID to get a gift card. So me and this guy, we go from Skid Row to MacArthur Park, and there's a Home Depot there. And I go in, I do my little thing, I'm looking around, you know. I'll take the drill bit. I'll walk out. I'm a firm believer that if you just play the part and act like you belong, most people are not going to question you. And so I walk out with the drill bit and I give it to the guy, and he has the ID. From the time the ID hit our head to the time money hit one of our hands, it was like 3 hours. To do what? Split $50? So I just spent 3 hours to make $25. I was like, never again. I started getting receipts. So I would take receipts that I would find. It's an age-old game. I would take receipts that I would find and just go in there and get the item. And I was like, oh, I don't even have to leave the store. I can sometimes leave the store, sometimes not leave the store. And I started developing these little methods. I would get books that I would find receipts in. I would flatten them out. I would put them in the middle of pages, and I would have receipts on receipts on receipts just sitting there flattened out, looking like they were newer than what they were. They weren't crimpled and crumpled up. And so, I mean, you look at Koreatown in LA, there's a Staples, there's a Walgreens, there's a Ralph's, there's an AutoZone, there's a Rite Aid. So I can find one item here, trade it at this other one, started learning what SKU numbers were, started learning like Ross and DD's are the same company. So 4011 is the beginning of all their SKU numbers. I started learning that some places SKU number on the receipt does not match the item. It's not always the item number. And so I would just, I might get some Robitussin from here, trade it into Rite Aid Deer. Now, mind you, I'm not trying to pay bills or anything. I'm just trying to keep crystal in my system.
Right.
And so I also had this loose idea that I was going to be able to take care of the kids doing this. Lots of loose ideas that never really worked out in my head.
Right.
And so I might take some Robitussin here, trade it in at the Rite Aid up the street. That's $7. And then I'll get some laundry detergent from the Rite Aid while I've just made money here. Take that to Ralph's. That's another $15. And slowly I'm making, sometimes $50 to $100 in 1 hour doing this. More than enough to buy my drugs. More than enough to buy my food and things like that. I had this alternate ego called Fiasco Baldwin. I also have Johnny Jr. Face, Light Bulb Lenny, Forrest Fire Foster, and Catfish Kelly, and Barnabas Williams. He's my favorite. So I would go to MacArthur Park, and I would go to one of the gangs that sold fake IDs, and I had bought a lesser version. Now, you could have paid more and got it to where it could scan and all that. I didn't need all that. I got an ID for Fiasco Baldwin. And I went on Home Depot's online account and created a pro account. And I called it Fiasco's Handies. And I would go I'd stole from a construction site, a construction vest. Because once again, if you just walk in playing the part, nobody's really questioning you. So now I'm going in the Home Depot and I'm not even making a lot of money, but in my mind, I'm doing big things. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I had a Home Depot pro account. Now I don't even need receipts. I would find receipts. I would register it to my account. I don't even need the receipt. And now it tells me where the item is in the store. Because I got to the place where I was having to look up these items, see exactly what they look like. Because the more time you spend in there looking around, the more likely you're going to get caught. You need to be to go in there, get the item, come back out with it, either take it to another store or come right back in. Now, what I learned, Home Depot, you can return an item even if it's for debit and get cash. Walmart, if it's less than $25, you don't need ID or a receipt. They'll give you cash, but you can only do that 3 times a year. Walmart.com, I would get their app. I would go find receipts in Walmart parking lots. I would spend hours. At night, I would get high and I would go to different shopping plazas across LA and I would just look for receipts. And I would register the receipt into the app, Walmart.com. All I got to do with the app, go right in there. It takes me right to the item now. I'm going in there. I'm filling up. Now, mind you, if I get caught, I have the receipt. So there's nothing they can say. I never got caught doing receipts. I only ever got caught actually stealing. So, of course, I've been in handcuffs in Target. If Target, Walmart, if you don't have ID, if you cannot identify yourself, they're calling the cops. If you can identify yourself, they're going to write you something. They're going to trespass you and send you something in the mail. And so now I'm doing this receipts. And in MacArthur Park one time at Home Depot, this guy dropped a stack of receipts in the trash. So I go grab it. It's like maybe $6,000, $7,000 worth of merchandise. The ones that are credit, I can't use. I took everyone that was cash and debit. And I never made a lot of money, but the most I made at one time was like $3,000 in a month with these receipts. And so I'm traveling all across LA County. I would catch buses with my bike. I would go out to Pomona. I would go out to Bell Gardens. I would go out to all these different places because LA County is so humongous that there's different parking structures. Because you don't want to, poop where you eat. You know what I mean? You don't want to hit the same spot over and over and over. Now I'm not only just doing receipts. Now I get into breaking into cars. Now, I've never broken a window. I never would break a window. I was just like, I don't want people to have broken windows. When I was on dog food and H, I steal from my mama. It didn't matter who you were. I'm not going to be dope sick. Mm. When I was on Crystal or Scante, I would never take from a friend. And I had these little principles that I guess didn't really matter, but I was like, I don't want to rob people that are poor. I don't want to take from people that don't have anything. So I would go to Santa Monica. I would go to Venice Beach. I would go to Culver City. I would go to Bel Air. I would go to Beverly Hills. And these are the places that I would choose to try to break into stuff. I've never broken a window. I don't know why. Probably should have. Not playing. Never should have did that. And so if the door was unlocked, I would go in. And I quickly learned that you look like an idiot if you open up a door and you're just in there messing around. Mm-hmm. So I quickly learned that I just would get in. I would shut the door. I would sit down in the car. I would immediately put the car seat all the way back to where nobody could see me. And then I would slowly raise the car seat up and look around. And it's like, oh, I've got time now. Nobody knows I'm here. Another thing, people don't pay attention to car alarms. You would think they do. Right. Yeah. When a car alarm goes off, I just walk away for 30 seconds and it goes off and I get back into the car. So now I can take my time. I can check this. I can check that. I can open up the little middle console. I found $1,000 one time. I found $300 one time. I found one lady was working for Burberry, and so she was suing Burberry. So I had all of her legal forms. This was, she lives in Hollywood, and I'm sure you know what a profile is.
I mean, a profile, there's different profiles. There's credit profiles.
So loosely, if you can get a person's name, social security number, and their birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a basic profile. Now, there's, of course, more extensive versions of that. I try to dibble and dabble into the scamming, but I was just trying to get high, bro. I was not a criminal mastermind. I was not trying to damage people's lives. I remember the first time I found the keys to somebody's car in the car, and I took the car. Mm-hmm. And later I felt so bad because there was a car seat in the back. And I was like, man, what if this? What if that? I never wanted to ruin people's lives. I just wanted to make enough money to get high on. You know what I mean? And so I broke into that lady's car with the information from Burberry. And I was very, very close to selling all of that because it had her social. The guy was going to give me $100 for it. But right before I was going to sell it to him, I was just like, I don't want to do it, bro. I didn't want to damage her whole life. You know what I mean? And so I remember I found $1,000 at Anytime Fitness. And one thing I used to do is if I found $1,000 in a car and it's like the second car I've broken into, I'm gone. I'm not sticking around. It's like I've already won. I found $1,000.
Right.
There's been times I'd break into 15 cars and not find anything. You know what I mean?
It's like a gambler who wins $50,000 and then still sits there for 2 more hours and loses all of it. It's like you were up $50,000. You should have walked away,
bro. If I buy a scratch off and I win $5, I'm done.
Right.
I might take one more dollar and buy another scratch off because it's like, hey, I didn't lose anything. So now I'm getting braver and braver with the little things that I'm doing. I've started from stealing drill bits from Home Depot, which only took me one time to realize that it was quick cost analysis, realize it's not worth my time doing that. Stealing receipts, getting the items. Now I'm getting comfortable actually going in the cars. I was always on a bike, so I would go to like a high-end area of Santa Monica, and there's these alleys where, you got 2 streets and these high-end lofts here, but the alley is where you get access to the garages. Mm-hmm. So I would just ride up and down those alleys until I would see a car come out. And I was just strolling there like I belong, just like I lived there. I mean, who's going to question me? Who's going to say anything to me? And so I would park my bike in the garage. First thing I do is I'm looking for every car. I'm looking for cameras. All right, there's no cameras. Some places did, some places didn't. If a car was unlocked, I do my thing. I sit down, I get in it, I open up the trunk, I look in the trunk. You know, at first I would take bags. I would take duffel bags. I would take a North Face vest, whatever. Just quickly started realizing like, okay, you know, you can't carry everything, bro. So I really just was looking for like jewelry, money. I never found no drugs or anything. I think I found some pot one time, but that was about it. And then once I get through there, I'm going to go into the apartment complex now. I'm going to go to the mailroom where all the packages are. And I'm going to see if there's Amazon packages. I'm going to see, I found a Rolex once, and I don't think it was real, but it might have been. The fence told me it was fake. He was like, I can give you $100 for it. And I was like, okay, shoot it. You know what I mean? And you know how many times I found Amazon packages that I thought were something special, but it was dog food?
Right.
Or Kleenex or Clorox, waste of my time. I remember the first time I entered a building, an actual residence. I had noticed that there was this space between the door of one apartment. And I looked, I knocked on the door. Nobody came to the door. So I walked down the way, making sure nobody was coming. Then I went right back, pulled out a credit card, slipped it in. Now I'm in this apartment. And this place was nice. I have never seen nothing this nice in my life. Mind you, I'm from the west side of Charleston, West Virginia. Like, we don't have that type of stuff here.
The bar's low.
Yeah, very, very, very. And so I'm going through this place, and I've never broken into a house in my life. So I don't really know what I'm doing, but I just immediately start opening up couch cushions. I go right upstairs. There's like this big guitar. There's a bed that's made. I just look under mattresses. I look under pillows. I'm opening up drawers. I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to find something. So downstairs, there was a key. And so I took the key. I couldn't find anything else. I left. But I kept that key because I was like, I'm going to come back. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep coming back to this place. Idiot. And so now I've done stepped up from receipts, cars, stealing cars, to now I'm actually going into people's homes. I never thought that I would do stuff like that. It just became easier and easier. You know what I mean? So yeah, I got the key to the house, and my plan was to go back into the house.
Right.
I probably lost the key or probably forgot where the house was, to be honest with you. 2 of the 4 or 5 cars I've stolen in my life, I lost them. I didn't know where they were. So
you aren't great at this.
First time, no. I thought I was, though.
Yeah.
And that's the delusion of crystal and being on drugs. You know what I mean? And now I had a blast. Like, yeah, do I want to go back to a place in my life where I'm doing drugs and I'm homeless and breaking into houses and stuff in Los Angeles? Of course not. But I still had a blast, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So the first time I ever stole a car, I had broken into this one car. It was a Nissan Murano. It was white. This was in Santa Monica. And I'm going through the car. I open up the glove box, and there's Nissan Murano keys. But they don't go to this car. I blurp them. They go to the Nissan Murano beside me, an all black one. So I'm like, all right, I go into that car. The keys to this car were in that car. So apparently,
They thought they were being cute.
I don't know what they thought, but they thought wrong because I stole that car. And I remember I'm sitting there and the nervousness. I mean, roller coasters don't even compare. The adrenaline that's going through my body, like, am I going to do it? Am I not going to do it? Should I take this car? Should I not? I'm out of here, bro. I turned the key on. Once I got out the building and got down the street, you couldn't tell me nothing. Took that thing, drove it all the way back to Skid Row, which 25, 30-minute drive. Took it to the homie down in Skid Row and was like, hey, this is what I got. And he was like, all right. Immediately, he went, did something underneath the bottom of the steering wheel, underneath that whole compartment, took off the low jack. Now they can't track the car, and I'm riding around for like a week. Now, mind you, the title was in the car too. So one thing I tell people all the time,
Not the registration. They own the car, title.
I mean, of course, registration was in there, insurance was in there, the title of the car was in there. Never leave your title in a car.
Right.
All I had to do was fraudulently sign it over to myself. What could they have said? Now, of course, once you go to court and do all the extra stuff, but I tell people all the time, now in Atlanta, from what I hear, people will roll their windows down because people don't care. They'll break your windows. So to prevent their windows from being broken down, they make sure there's nothing in the car and they just leave their windows rolled down, or they keep their doors unlocked. I tell people all the time, keep your doors locked. Never keep your title in your car. Always make sure you don't have nothing that you really, really want or need. Laptops, bags. Don't keep the stuff in the car. It's nothing for somebody to come in there and take it. And a lot of people don't care. All you need is a little piece of a spark plug, that ceramic, that white piece, and that busts car windows. It's like the best thing to bust a car window. So I take this car. I'm driving around for like a week. I think I'm hot stuff. You know what I mean? Now, not only do I have a car, now I got a car to go hit licks in. So now I get into mailboxes. So it's, receipts, cars, houses, still in a car. Now at nighttime, I would drive through Bel Air. I would drive through Beverly Hills. I would drive through Sherman Oaks, Thousand Oaks. And I would just, at night, drive, put the mailbox down, grab the stuff. Now I'm driving around with a seat full of mail. I don't think I ever found anything important. When I would find what we talked about as profiles, I had too much of a heart to trade them over to people. And so I'm downtown one day. I was very good about not letting cops get behind me when I had this car. I got caught slipping, bro. And a cop got behind me. And my kids say I lived a little baby GTA life, which I didn't, but it sounds good. And they blurped me, which is, long story short, they turned their lights on me. And so that's what we call it. They blurped me. And so I get blurped, and there's like 5 LAPD cop cars. There's probably 7 to 10 cops. They're yelling at me. There's a helicopter over me with its light shining down on me. Now, mind you, like I told you before, I wear my seatbelt. I am not a thug. So I turned the car off. I did everything they asked me to do. I'm not running from these people. And I'm got, you feel me? And so they get me out the car. Put your hands down. Put your hands behind your head, interlace your fingers, get on your knees, lay on the ground. I do all that. They come up, take my arms. They're mad. They obviously know I done stole a car. They put my arms behind my back real aggressively. They're standing me up. I don't think the cop fell for it, but you wasn't about to tell me nothing. I was like acting like I didn't know what was going on. And they're like, I'm like, what is going on? Like, I'm just going to the store, bro. Like, what are you doing? They're like, bro, this car is reported stolen. I said, look, man, it don't matter. And this is what I'm telling him. You know what? It don't matter. He was like, what do you mean it don't matter? I was like, what do you want me to tell you? That it's not my car? That my friend let me borrow it, which is what happened. I was just going to the store to get blunts, bro. But he's like, well, whose car is it? I said, come on, man. Obviously, if my friend stole it, then now I'm getting caught. I said, I'm not going to tell on my friend, so just take me to jail. I don't know if he believed me or not. I'm pretty sure he didn't. All I know is the next day, I'm sitting in LA County about to go to court. And not LA County, but I'm sitting at the courthouse because when you go to jail in Los Angeles, which is I'm sure like other places, it depends on who catches you where you go. So if LAPD catches you, you go to a LAPD substation and you go to court the next day, or if it's a Friday, you go to court on Monday in your regular clothes minus your shoestrings because all jails take your shoestrings so you don't commit.
Yeah.
And so I go to court. And we're sitting in this pod with, 100 dudes. And they call me up. Charges dismissed. And I'm like, what is so for them to be able to charge you with Grand Theft Auto, they can't do that if you have the keys to the car.
Right.
The worst they can do is driving without owner's consent, which I don't believe was a felony. So I'm racking my mind like, I'm not a snitch. I don't have anybody to snitch on. What's going on? And I never found out why the charges got dropped.
You had the keys. You said your buddy gave it to you. The owner said that's not true. Someone stole it, but we can't prove that the guy that stole it didn't give the keys. Do we want to do we want to expend, $40,000 trying to take this guy to fucking trial so that one person on the jury might say it's reasonable and let him go? Or did we just let him go now?
Oh, because I was taught at a very young age, you don't talk to cops, you don't talk to CPS, you don't talk to these people. My mom used to tell me, she said, hey, son, if you ever sell drugs, keep your W-2s on you, which means keep you a job. If you ever get pulled over and it's serious, you just ask for a lawyer. If it's just traffic stuff, just play it cool and play the part. And so, yeah, I wasn't about to tell him myself. So, yeah, and I thought, maybe the people were just happy to have their car back, whatever. So that's, I guess, caught with this car.
Right. They got real crimes in L.A. County, bro.
Oh, yeah, they're not worth. Look,
LA,
there's nothing I ever did that was that serious. Yeah. I think one of the scariest situations I was in was we were in Skid Row and we were in a apartment and we were all getting high. Now, I've never used a needle in my life, and I'm not judging people that have, but I don't like, even when I was getting high, I would not like being around people that were using needles, just because it's like the chances of you overdosing are like exponential, Mm-hmm. So we're getting high on crystal. This girl comes in, she's using a needle, but I thought she was doing the same thing we were doing. She wasn't. Next thing I know, she falls back. Her face is turning blue. And I'm like, guys, like, look what's going on. And they're like, they're all freaking out. They don't know what to do. And I'm like, what do you mean? Call the cops, bro. They're like, no, I said, listen, one of you better call the cops right now, or I'm going to do it, or I'm going to fight every one of you in here. Now, mind you, I'm not a thug. I'm not hard like that. When it comes to defending and protecting other people, something different comes out of me. So I was like, look, if you don't want to be involved, just leave, but I'm calling the cops. So we called the cops, which I don't even think the cops came, to be honest with you. I think just the ambulance came, and she got revived. She was so mad. She was so mad that she got revived. You know why she was mad?
Yeah, because what?
They Narcaned her and her high was gone.
Yeah. I was gonna say that it immediately puts you into like
withdrawal.
Yeah, withdrawal. So
Yeah.
you wake up and you're in extreme pain and you're sick and all the things that you were trying to avoid to begin with.
Yeah.
And you're not thinking, well, at least I'm not dead. You're just thinking, oh, this sucks.
It had blew my mind. Now, as I'm in Skid Row, I've been in more tents in my life in LA County than I ever was in West Virginia.
Right.
And West Virginia is the country, This is like, I'm from West Virginia, and which they always claim is super racist, which there are parts, but the most racism I've ever experienced is the California prison system, period. Oh, it's all racially segregated. And so long story short, not only am I dealing with addiction, are you familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
Yes.
Yeah.
The pyramid, right?
Yeah. And so, with
level
one,
you're not able to break level one.
Yeah, barely, if that. And so I also got 4 kids and a wife that are in Echo Park, 10 miles away, if that. And they're wondering, where's Daddy?
Right.
Now, when they see me, I've been over 200 pounds since I was 12 years old. I was a county wrestling champion. I've been a pretty big dude. I'm down to like 190. Mind you, I'm on crystal. I'm obviously not eating like I need to. I used to race cars on my bike, or at least I thought I was racing them. They hit that 30-mile-an-hour mark. They're gone. It's crazy because I learned some things when I was on drugs about fortitude that you may think you wouldn't learn in those situations, but Diamond Bar is a part of LA County, and there's a hill that's very steep. And even though I was on crystal when I did it, which gives you a lot of energy, I rode that whole hill up, did not stop once, and I never stood up. And if you've ever rode a bike, you get a lot more ease when you stand up when you're riding the bike. And that taught me like, oh man, I can do anything. It goes back to these transferable skills. It's a crazy way to learn it, but I learned that there's a lot that I can push my body to. And so all of this depression is setting in. At nighttime, man, I'm riding around LA. I'm screaming. I'm crying because I miss my kids. I know what my purpose is. I know the Lord. I know right from wrong, but none of those things stopped me. You know what I mean? So second time I ever went to a house, me and a friend of mine had drove to San Pedro. Now, I was in love with this person, and we were friends first, and she ended up getting a boyfriend. Me and her remained friends. But she kept saying, I just look at you as a friend. Okay, well, why do you got to lie to your boyfriend about us being together? So one day her boyfriend calls and I'm like, hey, so-and-so. She's pissed. She's angry because I done busted out. Like, I'm not about to hide. I'm a grown man. I'm not hiding from nobody except for the cops, period. So we're at San Pedro one day and she's like, sometimes you make me so angry. I just want to walk away from you. I turned around, looked at her. I said, I highly encourage you to exercise your rights then.
All right.
She did. She turned away and walked, left me 30 miles from home in San Pedro. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to go flocking then. Flocking is a term that they use out there for residential burglary. Now, whether it means breaking into cars, breaking into houses, or breaking into mailboxes, I'm going to go do my thing. I'm on Crystal. I see this cliff, and it's got to be every bit of 50 feet from the base of the beach to the top of the residential street. And I'm like, I'm climbing it. I'm going to climb this cliff just because I want to get to the top and say I could do it. I got a backpack on with rollerblades. I'm climbing up this cliff. I'm pushing my back against it. Got my foot up against a branch. I'm making my way up. I'm nervous. I'm scared, but I'm doing it. I get halfway up and I had to throw the bag off. Forget the rollerblades. I don't need them anymore. Throw the rollerblades off. I get to the top of this cliff and it's crazy that I'm homeless, I'm on drugs, I'm not being a father, but when I climbed that cliff and I looked over the ocean, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was like, hey, I just climbed a mother cliff. Man, I'm going to tell my kids one day that they can do anything they can set their mind to. Now I'm about to go break into some houses. And so now I'm walking through San Pedro. Now, actually, this is the first time I broke into a house. The one I had talked about with the key, that was the second time, actually.
Okay.
So night's coming down. I ended up finding this one house. Now, it was really, really nice. It was on the corner, and I go up to the porch, knock on the door, because there was times I would pretend like I was DoorDash. There were times that I would pretend like I belonged there, because what are they going to do? Call the cops? And if they call the cops, as long as I'm gone before the cops get there, I don't really care about calling the cops. I never cared about cameras neither. I never tried to hide my face. I was just like, look, I'm living in the moment. If I get caught, I get caught. I go into this house. I'm guessing they were setting it up to show. They were going to sell the house. And so water's on. I went in there, took a shower. Got put on the same clothes that I had on before. Now I'm still traveling throughout San Pedro, and I see this one house with a window open, and there's a car here. So I go up to the window. I look through the window. I can't see anything. So I knock on the front door. Nobody comes. So I walk away. I go back up, and I set what I call an alarm. It's not a real alarm, but just something that if it moves, I know somebody came. So I go to the window and I make a real loud banging noise and I walk away. I leave the scene for like 2 minutes. I come back, that little thing that I set by the door never moved. So I know nobody opened up the door. I made one more bang and walked away for 30 seconds. When nobody showed up, I just rushed. The adrenaline hit. I went straight into the window. And I went into the window. I immediately went to the bedroom. Some guy's in there is knocked out. He's just dead asleep.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above, that's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code Cox at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide.
I looked through a couple of the drawers and I was like, nah. I saw his keys and his wallet and a book bag. I grabbed those 3 things and I dipped. And I took the car that was in the parking lot, and I took the car and I just took off. He's got like $300-400 in the wallet. He's got some credit cards. So I immediately went and filled the car up with gas. And what do? I drive it back down the skid row to my homie. My homie takes the low jack off of it. Now, all those little things I did about making noises, knocking, seeing if nobody taught me these things. So it's like I'm literally out here teaching myself how to be a baby addicted criminal. And in my mind, it's like, I don't know, man. I was living some type of thwarted fantasy. It was definitely a false reality. And so the guy takes the low jack off. I end up leaving that car somewhere. Couldn't find it. It's like the second car I ever took was a Jeep Wrangler from USC, University of Southern California. And I'm driving that car around. There's like $1,000 worth of Nordstrom dresses in the back. I'm about to go trade in. The receipts are in the bag. I didn't even have to do no work for that one. And I'm running out of gas. I keep a bike with me at all times because I'll run from a cop in a bike. I'm not going to run in a car. And so I parked this car in Hollywood because I was about to run out of gas. Bro, I looked for that car for months. I kept driving. I forgot where the car was at. I never found the car again. And it's like, bro, you're out here stealing cars. It's like, at least make some money off of it. I never made $1 off any car. I showed up to some chop shop one time on Alameda, and they were like, mind you, I'm not really that much of a criminal yet.
Right.
I'm learning. You can't just show up and ask questions like this, bro.
How much for this car? Yeah. I don't have the title, nothing. They're going to be like, yeah, kick rocks.
Yeah. And so, remember when I told you I had a Jason Bourne moment?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I call it. It wasn't a Jason Bourne moment, but it was this moment that after this happened, you couldn't tell me nothing about playing the part. I had asked someone to let me into this building to use the bathroom. They let me in and they did. They weren't even tripping. Because once again, I would always just play the part. I would pretend like I knew somebody. It don't matter. I just needed to use the bathroom. And I checked the office. This was a place called Skid Row Housing and Trust. It was a set of apartment buildings. It's a whole program where they would take old hotels and turn them into apartments for homeless people. Now, mind you, the majority of the time, I would go to high-end places to do what I did. I just had this thing about I didn't want to rob poor people. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Well, I go into this office, and I'm looking for checks. I'm looking for money, but I see a whole set of keys. So I take the keys, and I took it to a friend of mine around the building that used to work for Skid Row Housing and Trust, and he was doing dirt too. And I said, look, like, what do you think I can do with these? Do you think I could just sell them? I just wanted to sell them to somebody, make me, $200, whatever.
Keys? What do you mean keys?
I found keys to the building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, the guy was looking through the keys, and on there was, because he used to be a janitor for them.
Right.
Was a master key, not just to that building,
right,
but to all their buildings. So now I'm traveling and I'm checking doors. Now I don't have to just check car doors or check a house door. I can see if this key fits. So I'm on the outskirts of Skid Row in South Central, and I'm checking doors. None of the keys are working. Well, like I did in Santa Monica, I had a bicycle. I went behind the building. I waited for this garage door to come up. And this guy's coming out. I don't know where I thought of this story, but it literally just came out the top of my head. He stopped me. He was like hip to the game. He was like, so what are you doing? And I was like, I'm coming to work. He was like, you don't work here. I said, yeah, I do. I work security here. And he's like, I'm security here. And I'm like, well, you better talk to Frank then. I don't even know who Frank is. I'm like, you better talk to Frank then. He's like, who's Frank, bro? I was like, listen, bro, if you don't know who Frank is, then you're probably not doing your job right. And the last thing I want to do is get you in trouble. This guy's not falling for it, bro.
I was going to say.
No, he's not. Look, he's not falling for it. I've spit similar stories to people, and they're like, they don't question it. But this guy, come to find out, this dude's from Compton. You feel me? Like, he's not, he's like, look, bro, you're trying to hit me with the okie doke, which is long story short, you're trying to play me.
Right.
Like, all right, bro, you know what? I'll have Frank deal with it. So I take off. And I don't know what it is about me sometimes in these situations that I wouldn't just immediately leave the situations, because there were times to where it was like, you know what, let me stick around a little longer and play this story, and it would work. This time it was not working. So I pull off, I go behind the cut. He pulls off coming behind me. He's looking around for me. I'm in the dark, he can't see me. So then I start following him. Why? I don't know. But I was like, this seems like the cool thing to do. So I follow him. We go around the corner to a 7-Eleven. I pull up on him, start chopping it up with him. And I am literally probably 15 seconds from just spilling the beans. I had this thing about, if I was about to try to take something from you or play a scheme on you, but we have a heart-to-heart, especially if we get into a deep conscious conversation about life, God, whatever, I now feel obligated not to take advantage of you. I just can't take advantage of you anymore. And which is ironic, because when I was on H and dog food, it didn't matter. I've broken my mom's house, stole her safe. I used to steal from my kids, their mother, to prevent myself from being dope sick. There's nobody I'm not willing to take from. When I was on Crystal, I guess I had some type of moral barometer. But if I had a deep, dope conversation with you, I couldn't get you. I'm 15 seconds from spilling the beans. Just being like, you know what, bro, I ain't even gonna hold you, bro. This is what I got going on. LAPD comes up. Cop pulls up. They get out their cop car. Matt, when I tell you I didn't give him a chance to breathe, something inside of me said, act with authority. I didn't give them a chance to even say anything to me. I said, can I help you? They said, yeah, actually you can. There's a person matching your description going around checking doors. Off the top of my head, I said, yeah, you probably did see that, because I work for RTC, round the clock security, and I work for a group of older men that don't like domestic violence, and we have contracts with certain women to keep them safe. So I have to go making sure that these doors are locked and making sure there's no weirdos around. They don't know whether to buy it or not. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know. I'm just trying it, bro. I'm just going with what goes. And thank God the homie didn't bust me out. He could have. Right. He was like straight across the board. And they were like, you know this guy? And he was like, hey, I don't know him at all. He asked me for a cigarette. He said something like that. They're like, you know what, you can go. So I'm just acting like an a-hole with them. I'm just acting like I have this air of authority about me. Something in my mind is like, bro, just keep playing the part, bro. You're going to make it out of this. So then they asked me who I am. I didn't give them a name. They were like, well, let us see some ID. I pull out some hard card. It was a plastic card. It had I don't know, maybe it was something to enter and exit or work building. It's probably something I just stole from a car. It had no picture, just the name on it. And I give it to them. And they're like, what is this? I'm like, you asked for ID. They're like, this is not ID, sir. And I'm like, that's what I gave you. They're like, what's your name? And I was like, Mike Shishamish. They're like, Mike, what? I literally looked at him and said, Mike, you know I don't know the name, so why do you keep asking? Bro, now they're coming at me. They're getting me off. They're taking my book bag off. They're about to put me in handcuffs. They're taking stuff out of my book bag. They find IDs. They probably found a social security card or two. They're like, what's all this? And I said, I told you I work for security. I had to take those. I had to confiscate those from weirdos that are around our women's buildings. Something inside of me is just
They're not buying this. They don't buy this, bro. Tell me that you don't get out of this.
I told you my Jason Bourne moment, right, you'll understand. I don't know what it was, but something inside of me was like, bro, you've done sold it down the river now. Stay on the raft. You're already down, you know what, creek without a paddle. Just keep going down the river. You can't back off now. Bro, I'm telling them I confiscated this stuff. I got keys in my bag. Thank God I didn't have any burglary tools. That's another story. And so they're putting me in handcuffs, and I'm like, man, I don't know what this is about. And they're like, sir, you lied to us about your identity.
Did you tell them to call Frank?
Watch. They said, you lied to us about your identity. I looked at them and said, I don't even know if you're really LAPD. Bro, in my mind, it was so magical because I was like, it all lines up. Like, I'm telling you that I'm a security guard protecting women that are in hiding. And it was like every 90s movie, every Beverly Hills Cop, every cop thriller, it's like all went into this algorithm that just pushed out this answer that said it makes so much sense now. Now I'm really going to sell this story because I don't know if you're looking for this woman. That's what that statement said to me. So they put me in the cop car. By this time, I give them my real name. Now, I had obviously had to have never been in trouble in LA at this time. And they look for my name in like 3 different databases. I don't know I couldn't tell you what databases they were. Maybe like ATF or FBI. I don't know. The story already sounds so far-fetched. I don't want to add extras to it. Sergeant shows up. Now, something told me, act a little less authoritative with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be such an a-hole to this guy. He pulls up. He talks to them. He comes back to the car. He's like, so what's going on? I give him the same spiel, but I'm calling him boss. I'm like, listen, boss, I don't know what they got going on. I work for round-the-clock security. Yeah, I lied to them about my identity. I can't be telling people who I am. I'm giving him this spiel. And this is years ago. I was on high, so I don't remember everything I told him, but these are around the things I told him. He goes back, talks to them. He comes back to me, and he says, listen, one of them's new. Let them do their job. They're just trying to do their job. I'm going to get you out of here in a couple minutes. You can't tell me nothing no more. Man, they come to that car. They are pissed. They're like, look, you can take all this fake stuff and get out of here, or we can take you downtown and find out who you really are. I said, well, I got a job to finish, and I got 2 more routes, and I'm going to finish. I said, you know what? Even though I know Frank will have me out in a couple hours, it's not worth going all through all the processing. Man, they let me out the car, gave me my book bag, gave me the IDs back, gave me the social security cards back, gave me my keys back. I get on my bike, I start riding off normal. The moment they're out of view, I'm gone. Dipped off, went back down to Skid Row. And now at this point, you can't tell me nothing no more. I'm going to play the part everywhere I go. I'm going to pretend like I belong. Now I think I'm Spider-Man because now I'm jumping over gates and I'm finding different ways to maneuver in and out of situations. What usually would be an obstacle now no longer is an obstacle because if the gate is locked to the outside of the loft, I'm just going to jump over the gate. I remember one time I had walked into this building in Hollywood. It was like a high-end loft on Hollywood Boulevard, the Strip. I'm into this, man, imagine an area just like this, but there's a big TV, big sectional, big community room. They got 4 pools, 2 right here, 2 right here, right outside this window. This is a nice loft. People probably pay upwards $10,000 to be in this loft. I'm in there watching TV, just chilling. I really came in here to break into stuff. But I'm like, I'm going to watch some TV. People are coming down. They're like, hey, well, we were going to watch this. I'm like, when I get done with this, I got you. I don't even belong here. Right. So now I end up getting into this conversation with these people that live there. And I'm sitting there chopping it up with them. They all live here. Remember when I told you that if I have a real conversation with you, I can't get you?
Right.
Man, the conversation took a conscious turn. And we were talking about some deep stuff about community membership and all this. So I said, listen, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I came in here to rob you guys. They were like, rob us? I said, not like that. I was just going to steal some packages and stuff. I said, but I just can't do it to you, man. You guys are pretty cool with me, man. And I'm homeless. I'm on drugs. And I ended up spitting some poetry to them. We ended up having a real deep, dope conversation. They didn't call the cops or nothing. They was like, man, you can really do better with your life. And I was like, I know, man. And it was a genuine heart-to-heart. I genuinely was having that conversation with them. But I knew I was going to go back out and smoke some crystal and break into some other people's stuff. So it's like, I thwarted here. I can't do it here, but yeah, I'm going to do my thing. And so, yeah, man, now man, you can't tell me nothing, man. I'm thinking way higher of myself than I am. Like, I'm literally in Hollywood living like a little baby GTA life. I'm getting away from cops and I'm breaking into houses and I'm breaking into cars. And listen, if I could smoke crystal, take care of my kids, do God's will, make money, fulfill my dreams, I would never stop. It's a phenomenal drug. Mm-hmm. I just don't have the skill set to do it. I'm being honest with you. I don't have those skill sets. I can't just smoke pot. It always leads me down to another place. So that's why personally now, like, I have to stay completely away from all of it. On the other side is true too. If me getting out of certain places in my life and doing certain things like 12-step recovery and making better spiritual decisions, if after 10 years, after 2 years, my life's not improving. You ever watch like those AA meetings on movies? And it's like, well, it's been 10 years and I'm just trudging along. Man, scratch that. Give me some crystal. What's the point? If my life is not improving, I'm going back to getting high. You know what I mean? So now I'm going back and forth to LA County. And the first time I catch a felony, I was in this apartment complex. Now, it wasn't nice like that one I just told you about, but they had a community room. They had a bathroom. They had like a refrigerator with drinks and all that in there. So I break into this place to do what I do. And I go into the bathroom, bro, and I was in there for probably 3 hours, butt naked, smoking crystal with all of my stuff just spread around the bathroom. And anybody that's listening that's been on the streets smoking crystal, skante, what they call it in LA, they know what I'm talking about. You cannot do crystal and not be a tweaker. Everybody's a tweaker that does it. People just have different tweaks. Like me, I'll freestyle for 12 hours straight. Or I go like breaking into stuff. Some people pick their face. Some people like to look through the blinds and be paranoid. I like to go in the bathrooms and just sit there for hours. And so I get a knock on the door. LAPD. I'm like, oh man, I'm high as can be. I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, man. I'm butt naked. I'm like trying to put some clothes on. And they open up the door. When I open up the door, they look, they're like, what are you doing? I don't remember what I told them, man. But of course, I think I had waited till it was like 8 o'clock in the morning. So I guess somebody that lived there had found out that somebody was in the bathroom for too long. And this is the first time I went to jail for a felony charge this time. And because they saw me go into the refrigerator and grab a 2-liter of Coca-Cola, that is enough to get you for a residential burglary, ironically. But more importantly, they saw me go through the garage without anything, come back in with some Ray-Bans and a book bag. They had enough to get me for residential burglary. And so I'm sitting there in LA County, trying to fight the case. And I'm thinking, just like back home, I'm going to get out of this. My mouth has always gotten me out of stuff. I never really had to pay real consequences to my actions. And so now I'm in LA County for 5 months. I'm still getting high in there. If you do certain prescription pills, they give you certain effects that street drugs do. Nothing's changing. I just thinking I'm gonna get sober. They give me a program, but it wasn't a program like a drug rehab. It was a place in MacArthur Park where they had once again taken an old hotel and they turned it into a program. I'm given probation. I don't even have to drug test or anything. They're just like once a week we show them our ID and it's like, you had any interactions with cops? Nope. All right, I'll see you next week. That program was a housing program. All I had to do was get an ID, which I got, and find a sustainable source of income. And then you qualified for your own apartment. And all you had to do was pay 30%, and you can have that apartment for life. Well, once I got out of LA County.
Say that again?
Yeah. It was called ODR, Office of Diversion and Reentry, which is not to be mistaken with officer dining room, right. Which is what they called it there too. So they had created this program in January of 2017, and around August of 2017, I qualified for it. It was Office of Diversion and Reentry. It was like, okay, instead of sending you to prison or instead of keeping you in county jail, if you meet the parameters, which I did, addiction, I didn't really have mental health issues, but LA County Jail is set up as in Men's Central Jail, Wayside, which is up in, I think, Santa Clarita, Linwood, which is the women's prison or women's county jail, and then Twin Towers. Now, in LA County Jail, it's all about gangbanging, and it's all about racial politics. Now, Twin Towers, that's mental health and medical. Most people there are not gangbanging. And if they are, it's probably because they're nobodies in Men's Central Jail, and they're coming here to be a somebody or they're hiding. So like a lot of the Hispanic gangs, the Southsiders, they don't play that. You're not allowed to be a Southsider and go to Twin Towers. If you go to court in yellow and blue, which is what we wore in Twin Towers, the homies would tell you straight up, you got 24 hours to get back into blue. Blue is the GP main color for LA County Jail. And so because I was in Twin Towers, I automatically qualified for some of the mental health programs that the court systems were creating and trying to do to keep the prisons not full and to keep the LA County Jail not full. So I qualified for this program. All I had to do was get a source of income and an ID, pay 30% of my income. I got an apartment for life.
Okay.
Thing about addiction is you can take away the substances all you want, but if you're not doing the real deeper work, none of it matters. It's like putting lipstick on a pig. You can clean the pig up all you want to, and you can put Maybelline on the pig if you want to, but it's still a pig. And so I get out of LA County Jail. I'm super grateful to be out of jail. And it's like, oh man, I can really do this thing. Bro, within 2 days, I'm smoking crystal again. And now not only do I have a place to live, I have a place to bring all of my stolen stuff. I remember one time I got on a bus in LA, and in the front of the buses, they have bike racks. So I get off the bus real quick, and I took the bike off the rack and took off. And the crazy part is maybe a month later, that bike was stolen from me. You don't know how many times I've been up for like 7 to 10 days and I fall asleep at a bus stop because people will tell you, man, I've been up for 3 months. No, you're not. You're not up for that long. You're not up for probably even more than 7 to 10 days. You're getting sleep. Your body is shutting down. You just don't have any memory of it. So there's been plenty of times I would go sit down for 2 seconds. Next thing I know, I wake up, all of my stuff is gone. And who can I be mad at?
Right.
All the stuff they stole was stolen stuff anyway. It's like a cycle. It's like everybody's recycling stolen stuff on the streets of LA. And so now I've just got somewhere to bring my stolen stuff, man. I had hit a Hollywood open mic and I did so well with it. And people are coming up to me. It's like, man, who are you? Like, cause I'm very, very good at putting bars together and poetry. And it's very impactful and moving. But once again, it's like lipstick on a pig. It's like, I know I've got these certain skills that are maybe even attractive. I know I got a little bit of game. It got me out of a cop car, you feel me, in handcuffs. My little Jason Bourne moment. But nothing on the inside of me is changing. It goes back to Maslow's, level 1, level 2, level 3. If those things are out of whack, you're not being primed to have good self-esteem. You're not primed to meet self-actualization. And all of that sounds great, but until the substances are removed, period, nothing's going to change. So for 5 months, I'm in this program and I'm just still doing what I'm doing, bro. And it was actually towards the end of that 5 months. Remember when I told you I had walked into the house and I had stolen that key? That's when that actually happened. I apologize. I had did that, and I had did another thing where I went into this apartment complex. Now, I'm pretty smooth with it generally. I never really, that one incident with the cop car was one of the first times it happened, and I have got caught, but a lot of the times I never got caught breaking into cars. I never got caught breaking into places. I more so got caught like stealing from stores when I would do little stuff, because I had little things like, I'm not going to get greedy. If I find $1,000 in a car, I'm gone. I won't do dirt with other people. I think energy mattered. The one time and the last time I did something with somebody else, they were acting like a chump the whole time. And I had to tell them, like, look, bro, we may be doing wrong, but you have to have this air about you, like we're not doing anything wrong. And he didn't understand it. I'm like, bro, cops know how to read energy. Say a cop comes to an intersection. He knows he's supposed to go left. He got somewhere to go, but something tells him to go right. Something gives him that unction, go right. It's because you're scared behind down here breaking into a car, and you can't control your emotions. You're acting hella nervous. You're giving out all this nervous energy. I would think like that. Mm-hmm. And so I would be in situations where I was doing wrong, but I would just pretend like I'm not doing anything wrong. I belong here. Mm-hmm. So I go into this apartment complex one time in Hollywood, and I would always check mailboxes first when I would go into an apartment complex. And I go upstairs, and I don't know what I was thinking, bro, but I was reading something as I was coming off the 3rd floor. And I literally didn't even try to go into this apartment. I just thought it was the exit to the stairs because I wasn't paying attention. So I go, I'm reading this, and then all I hear is a bunch of screaming. And I look up, I'm like, oh, this is an apartment. And I hear, like, I don't know, it sounds like Russian or I don't know. I didn't know what language they were speaking. So I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, like, you know, blase, blase. So I go to leave. I should have just left. But something told me, maybe you should go explain yourself.
Right.
Because it's worked before. But like that guy from Compton, this time he wasn't falling for it. So I tried to go explain to them. I was just delivering some food. I was just drunk because I've done that. I've told that story 1,000 times, and it's fine. Not even 1,000 because I rarely would interact with people. I would do a lot of stuff at night. So this guy's not falling for it, bro. And there's a language barrier too. He can't really understand what I'm saying. I can't really understand what he's saying. So he's like, get out of here. And I'm like, all right, I'm gone. I should have just left.
What do you call the cops? And the cops showed up? What?
I'm going to tell you. I should have left and dipped off. I broke one of the rules. I got greedy. And I said, I'm going to go through their apartment. I'm going to go through their parking garage now. So I go, and I've got this foldable bike. You ever seen one of these foldable bikes? They're small, and they're you can take them everywhere. So I go into the parking garage, and now I'm looking in the cars. None of the cars are unlocked. So I try to go through the door that I just came in. Door is locked. You can't get in from the parking garage. You got to have a key. The garage door that rolls up, the big one to let the cars out, it's locked. It's down. I'm like, oh, Jesus, I don't know what I'm going to do. Next thing I know, here comes this like Russian dude or whatever he was out the door with this big, it looked like a kendo stick to me, like what Ken Shamrock used to have on WWF. And there's this big old white boy, and he's like, looks like a kickboxer. He speaks English. So I'm thinking, you know what? I can explain to this guy what's going on, bro. I can just explain to him, hey, I was delivering, I was reading, I wasn't paying attention. Bro, they're not falling for none of it. The white dude's like, nah, bro, no. We know what you're up to. Dude hits me in the leg with the stick. I'm sitting there limping now, and it hurt. And then the guy's at the bottom of the ramp, and he's like, guys, what's going on? What's going on? And they're like, yo, keep this guy here. Don't let him go nowhere. We're going to call the cops. So they go, they call the cops. I had just broken into a car maybe 3 blocks before. I had found a doctor that I think was from Germany. I found his passport, his iPad. I had like foreign money. I had credit cards. So in my mind, I'm like, I hit a lick. You know what I mean? And I got this new foldable bike that I stole too. I don't want to leave this stuff here. But all I know is, like I said before, I don't care if you call the cops, as long as I get away before the cops get there. I realized that I'm on a 2nd story. Man, I went over, looked over, I left all that stuff. I jumped over the 2nd story, landed on top of her car, rolled off, jumped over a fence. I was gone. I don't know what happened, but I was gone. And so these little incidences where I keep getting myself out of, me getting that program at 5 months, you know what I mean, where I fought 5 months in LA County to fight for, it was a little housing program. It's like I'm building this arrogance that says I'm above the law. Now, mind you, I'm doing nothing that's like crazy. I can imagine the $1 million schemes you've heard of on this podcast.
Right.
I'm a crystal addict.
Right.
I'm homeless, and I'm lost in the sauce, and I'm having fun too. I had a lot of fun doing these things. So the day I got caught, the last time,
Right.
I broke into that house that day and got the key, was going to come back. And I had broken into this underground parking structure. So within elements of like residential burglary, like we talked prior intent, permission to be there, and there's other elements that they have to prove to be able to land that type of conviction. Otherwise, it's a lesser crime. Well, I'm breaking into these cars, and I found like a stack of lottery cards. I still to this day be like, man, I wonder what them lottery cards had on them. And the way I got in was there was this little window, like a grate, like a metal grate that was a window, it had slats, and it was unlocked. And so I snuck in that way. As I'm coming out of it, I guess somebody saw me from the streets. And as I'm coming out of it, there's a gun pointed to me, and it's the cops. And at this time, I was like, you know what? I'm done. I was tired. I was like, I don't know how long I had been up for at this time. and I was just done. I was just completely done. And so I gave myself up. It was the first time in my life that I just was like, well, that time in home when I gave myself up so the other kid wouldn't have to take the fall for it. This time it was more like they took me to the Hollywood substation when the detective, I guess it was a homicide and robbery detective came. He just asked me, and I just told him straight up. He was like, "No, you know you can have a lawyer." I said, "Look, bro, I did it. I'm done. Take me to jail. I'm done. I'm tired. I don't want to live this life no more. I don't want to live this life no more." Now, at this time, my kids and their mom had already left back to West Virginia. So I didn't know if I'd ever see them again. I didn't think I'd ever leave Skid Row. I didn't think any of that was ever going to happen. And so, yeah, I was like, I'm done, you know. And then I spent about 5 months fighting that case. I tried to get back into the ODR program. And even, remember I told you I had a man I call father, but he's like really a spiritual leader. He had came and spoke for me too. The judge was like, nah, you're done, bro. Like you're in and out of LA County jail. Like you just don't learn. We just gave you a program and you still didn't learn. So 459, PC 459 is residential burglary in California. It carries 2, 4, 6. So, you know, the first time you get caught, 2 years prison. Second time, 4. Third time, it's either 6 or they have 3 strikes law out there, 25 to life if you get caught 3 times in a row. So I already had a strike and a felony from the first residential burglary I had. Now they give me another strike and another felony. So that's called an enhancement. So they have gang enhancements. Like if you're a gang member, you automatically get your sentence enhanced. If you've been caught for the same thing before, you get it enhanced. So any of your strikes get you enhanced. So it was supposed to be 4 years, but they had passed something called Prop 57, which was an attempt to minimize the population of the prison system. So basically it said, if you do your base term, which is 2 years, we'll knock off the enhancement. So yeah, they sent me to prison.
How much did you get then? You should
I
have got
did 2 years.
4. Okay.
I was supposed to do 4. I went to prison, and to tell you a little bit more about prison. It was from LA County Jail. Up until the day the prison bus came, I thought something was going to happen. I'm gonna get out of this. Like I remember the first time.
They're going to realize I'm a good guy. They're going to realize that. And they're going to change their mind.
1,000%.
The judge is going to go home and sleep on this tonight. And he's going to be like, you know what? That one out of the 45 cases I saw today, Jimmy didn't have that coming.
Jimmy can do poetry. Jimmy knows how to use words. Jimmy traveled the state of West Virginia for 3 years helping kids. Jimmy loves his kids.
Yeah.
These are the thought processes that are in my mind.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was in LA County Jail. It was the first time I had spent more than a night in LA County. The next day, I got some sleep. So some of the remnants of the drugs was wearing off. And it hit me like, oh, bro, you're really in jail right now. Do you know that my punk self went and cried to the cops? I was like, man, my kids, they got a Christmas program. I have to get to it. Literally an hour later, I got released. And it had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I still at that time didn't know how all of that worked. You know what I mean? It just so happens to be that whatever my stuff was, it was like you said earlier, they got more important stuff. So the system just kicked my name up to be released. But I thought it had something to do with that. So once again, in my mind, there's this perpetuation that my mouth can get me out of trouble. So LA County Jail, my last time I spent in LA County Jail for 5 months, I'm still snorting prescription pills. I'm not really thinking about changing my life. I'm not really recognizing what the issues really, really are. It was the bus ride to state prison when I realized, oh, you're really going to prison, bro. Like, you're going to prison, bro. Like, you're not getting out of here tomorrow. On that bus ride, I asked myself one question. Like, either there's hope for you or you're a loser and there is none. And I chose that there was hope. I chose that, you know, the plan God had for me, I could follow it. I chose that I did not have to live like this the rest of my life. And something happened, just like, remember when I talked about me forgiving that boy that shot me? This was the second time in my life that in an instant, something had happened, like just a complete spiritual awakening. And when I got to the prison, they I told them I didn't want any mental health medication. I didn't need any of it. I didn't want any of it. Now, mind you, in LA County Jail and California prison system, you have to run with whatever race you are. You don't have a choice unless you gangbang. Like they'll have white Crips and white Bloods, but the Woods generally have a problem with that. Now me, I'm white, obviously. But growing up, all of my kids were mixed. Growing up, the majority of my friends were black. So in my mind, it was like, I'm not going to come to jail and prison and just switch up who I've been hanging out with my whole life. And so I chose to run with the blacks. Now, I made it to a very low level 1 where everybody was short time in it. The only lifers we had on the yard had already been in prison for 25 years. And some of them are what we call LWOPs. Are you familiar with the term? Mm-mm. Life without the possibility of parole. So I know plenty of men that were sentenced without the possibility of parole and just through their own good work and through God's grace have been released. So there were a couple of them on the yard. And my cellie on the yard, when I made it to actual prison, because when you go to prison first, you go to reception for 3 months. They figure out your points. They figure out where they're going to pitch you. He, residential burglary, 25 to life. So I had a great example for a year of where this could really lead me.
Right.
And so, yeah, man, I had decided to change my life on that bus ride, man. And I thank God I made it to a level 1. None of the white boys were tripping on me. Everybody was just trying to get home. I mean, there was a little bit of politics in there, but it wasn't like level 2. So in California State Prison, you have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't know if there's anything past that, but it's all based off points. So I had, I think, 13 points, which they figure out, I guess, your criminal history, your convictions, they give you a point system. The higher your points, the higher levels you make it. Now, if I would have made it to level 2, 3, or 4, God put me where I needed to be because I was safe. I never got into a fight. I got into one fight in county jail because some guy threw my stuff out of my cell, and I was like, I don't have a choice, bro. Like, I don't have a choice but to fight you right now. Mm-hmm. And so I get to prison, man. I'm reading a gang of books. I'm playing chess every day. Love chess. I still play chess to this day. Y'all play chess?
No, I was just thinking about this. A buddy of mine, I went to Vegas recently. We were talking about chess, and I was like, how, and I think I've mentioned this before. I don't know if you've ever heard me say it. Like you understand that chess is a game of the aristocracy, of kings. It's played with thought, and it's and dignity and quiet. And if you go to prison and watch the way these guys, they've turned it into just street level, guttural. It's horrific the way they play it. You like, what I'm saying? It's played by king. You move the pieces, and it's subtle and it takes time. There's lots of thought. And you watch these guys in prison play it, and it's like, I got your fucking bitch, bro. Got your bitch. And they're like, yeah, I'm in your fucking house. What you gonna do now, motherfucker? I'm in your house. I mean, you're like, it's horrible.
That wasn't my experience.
Really? Because they,
no. There were a few.
You've turned this, they have turned this into, it's just, I don't want to say, it's just guttural. That's what, I'm saying? I understand what you're, like, you obviously played with somebody else, but and this was every place I've been, you'd see these guys like, yeah, that's right. What you go, that's right. I got your fucking bitch. And the terms that they come up with for the names of the players, like, it's not like your bishop. And they've got different names for the piece. I got your house. You have my castle.
Yeah.
And that's my queen. You know what I'm saying? It's just.
I got your horse, bro.
Yeah. I got
your horse is done.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I'll be honest with you. There was a little bit of that. And I grew up, I'm a West Side baby from the West Side of Charleston, West Virginia. I grew up in the hood talking trash.
Right.
Like when we play Madden, when we play pool, when we play anything, we grew up talking trash to each other. Right now on Def Jam Comedy, there's a channel on YouTube called Roast Me. I love watching it. I grew up like that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, even if I'm losing in Madden, I'm talking trash. And there was a little bit of that sometimes in chess, but the greatest moments I had in chess were these older men that were like, had been in prison for 15, 20 years already. And they had this peace about them. And I learned so much through them and about life, learning how to play chess, to where now it's like, when I play chess with people, which I really just play on my phone because I don't have a lot of people to play with. It's really more of a quiet game because I agree. It is. It's a very.
I guess I could see some older guys that have been playing forever. I could see that happening. But you got to just think. I'm thinking about the 25-year-olds.
Oh yeah,
because there were guys in Coleman where they literally had 30 chess books. I mean, they've been locked up 25 years, worked their way down from the pen, never getting out. You made yourself to the low, made it to the low. You're probably never getting out, right? You're 65 years old. You got another 20 years. You know, you're done. But they could play with 5 different guys at one time. They knew that they walked around with cards. They had cards with different moves on it. Things that they were memorizing things. They knew the names of all the different pieces, not the pieces, but
if they're in like the shoe.
Yeah.
Or the hole, they could play through the vent.
Yeah. That,
Talk through the toilet.
B7 to, from B7 to B whatever, or C this, or
take
move
your knight.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. One of my favorite openings I learned from a book. It was actually Chess for Dummies.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, those are great series. I always say that. Like I've read like the writing true crime for dummies.
Yeah.
I've read all the different screenplay writing for dummies.
Really?
Yeah, they've got, and they also have the Idiot's Guide, the true crime for the Idiot's Guide to Writing True Crime, or Idiot's Guide to Writing Memoirs.
You know what the modern day for dummies books are?
What?
YouTube.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's all you need anymore.
Anybody who ever says like, yeah, bro, I couldn't figure it out. Bro, there's 150 videos on whatever you want to know on YouTube right now.
You know, they say there's no such thing as a dumb question. Yeah, there is. Ones you can easily Google. Stop asking me for directions. Yeah. Well, how do you get there? If you don't Google that and leave me alone, bro, get out my face. Like Apple Maps or what's it, Waze?
Do you turn? I love it when people have those conversations like, so do I make a left at the 7-Eleven? Bro, I don't. You got the most powerful device ever created in your pocket. Why are you wasting my time with this conversation?
Thank you, bro. Why are we even wasting time? Look, I'm a nerd. You know what I mean? Now, like when I talk about growing up in the hood, Charleston, West Virginia, every place has a hood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'm from, I never really had to worry about walking down the wrong street necessarily. Never had to worry about colors. There's not gangs like that there. Now, there are people that come from bigger cities. And I guess there's real ones everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. I would tell people in the streets of South Central, I'm more scared of these hillbillies in the hills of West Virginia than I am of any of you, because they'll take you to a place that you'll never get found again. Just like down here, they'll take you to the Everglades. You're done. You get eaten by alligator. And so
my wife.
In 2004, Charleston, West Virginia had the most violent crime rate per capita in the country per 100,000. They say we have a population of about 50,000, but I look at the metro population of areas, never just the population, and we have about 270. But it's just part of the backwards thinking too, growing up in the hood or whatever. My city's more dangerous than your city. It's like, bro, that's really not a barometer of success. I guess if you want to be a rapper, which, I've been rapping all my life, but even when I rap or do poetry, it's all about how can I utilize this gift to help other people. And so it goes down everywhere. My mom and dad's so dope. I got shot. Plenty of my friends have got shot. I know people that have been killed, drug deals gone wrong. But it's also a great place to raise a family, other than the fact that it's hella boring. You know what I mean? Now, if you've got the resources, maybe you're middle class and you can get out and explore a little bit more, leave the state, take a couple vacations, it's a great place to raise a family. Like, I'm super, super grateful to be from West Virginia. I am a 304 baby, which is our area code. For years, we only had one. That blew my mind. I got out to LA and it's like, man, there's a different area code for... There's like 15 area codes in this one county. It's crazy. And so, going back to prison, man, I played chess, read a gang of books. That's all I would do was read. I remember I read Sister Soldiers, The Coldest Winter Ever. It's probably like a 500-page book, read it in 24 hours. Couldn't put it down. I found out that teen dystopian books are fire. Maze Runner, Hunger Games. The Pretties, the Uglies, the Specials, and the Extras is a phenomenal series. I'm reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad, of course. Ironically, when I caught the plane here in Huntington Airport in West Virginia, I found an original copy, I believe, of The Richest Man in Babylon. I'm reading my Bible, of course, but, Vince Flynn, who has a character, Mitch Rapp, love. Because 24 is my favorite drama of all time, and I'm a big Jason Bourne fan. Michael Connelly, of course, John Grisham. James Patterson was kind of looked at like, it's a baby book.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's written for people with like a 5th grade education.
Really?
And
they were great.
Very formulaic. It's the same thing tends that they tend to happen over and over again.
Formulaic is perfect
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he's figured out the algorithm that if I give these people very short chapters, they can get through it faster. And it's not to take away from James Patterson. He's a phenomenal author. It's just that James Patterson books and what we called urbans.
Does he have the Stone Barrington character, James Patterson?
I'm not sure. I know he has Alex Cross.
Oh yeah, Alex Cross. You're right. Sorry.
I read a lot of John Grisham. You know,
I love John Grisham.
John Grisham is fire. I actually really like watching litigation, like The Lincoln Lawyer, which is what Michael Conley wrote. I love that series on Netflix.
Yeah, they make it sound like being a lawyer is exciting. Like it's like it's like reading kind of like the Alex Cross thing. Like that, they make it sound exciting when really being a cop is not exciting. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, they have to romanticize it. you
yeah,
know?
yeah. Same thing with being a lawyer. I mean, boy, you listen. It's not exciting. Like those courtroom moments, those aha moments are fleeting and rare and almost never happen. And most lawyers have a horrible job.
Yeah, and most of them are in debt. You know
Yeah.
what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah. They don't make a lot of money. Listen, if you said, Matt, you can be an electrician or you could be a lawyer, I'd be like, oh, I'll take electrician, bro.
All day long.
Electricians are making $150,000 a year. The average lawyer is making like $160 and $180. He's probably got $500,000 in student loan debt to get to that point. Like,
And how many hours? I read The 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, person A makes $100,000 a year, but they work 80 hours a week to get it. Person B makes $50,000 a year, but they only work 10 hours to get it.
Right? Who
really
more?
makes more money?
Yeah.
Person B.
Yeah.
You know, and so as I'm reading these books, I remember one time a guy gave me a TV. And, you know, like people look out for each other in prison, but to give somebody a whole TV,
That's a lot.
that's a lot. And I guess he had gotten everything electronic had to be clear. I don't know if it was like that where you were at,
Yeah.
but yeah.
We had that little radio, the AM FM radio that was
Yeah.
clear.
And so, you know, you get your TV through your packages. Like you can get quarterly packages. Like you had commissary where
Yeah,
you can
I
get.
never had any TVs, bro. It was in federal prison. There was no TVs.
Oh, really?
No, this is in LA. Like this is like, or where I listen. I know there were places where they could play video games.
Oh, Arizona?
Unbelievable.
Arizona lets you
I'm
get
in
Xbox.
prison thinking that they need to take those away. Like, you know what I'm saying? That is not prison.
Like, how dare you
Yeah,
water this down?
Yeah.
Bro, even my prison, man, I was in a place called Tehachapi. It was in Bakersfield, which was in Kern County, which was, you got LA County, Ventura County, Kern County. Remember I talked about the wilderness stage earlier when we talked about biblical characters? Tehachapi was really in the wilderness, but it was so high up that it snowed. And I didn't even think it snowed in Southern California other than Big Bear. It was literally an old army barracks that they turned into a prison. And so we had long dorms. We had some other buildings that had like 2-man rooms. There were no cells on level 1. Now, I think once you got to level 3 and 4, they had actual cells because the higher the level, the longer you're on lockdown throughout the day, from what I believe. We had yard all day long. Yard open at 9, yard stay up until 6 or 7. You know, and there were certain rules, like it was like an unknown rule amongst the inmates called 10 to 10. So it was like from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., it's quiet. So you waking up at 7 a.m. and another guy's brushing his teeth, top of the morning, you know, very something subtle, kind of keep it quiet. Different races, they did different things. Like I know the Southsiders, you have to work out in their program, but they also have like the Southsider spread. So like a spread in California jail and prison is where they just throw a bunch of stuff together. Man, I've had orange chicken. Dude, take chili ramen, apple jelly, and pork rinds. Bro, tastes just like Panda Express. Crazy. And so the Southsiders have a Southsider spread. It don't matter if you got money or not. If you're a Southsider, you're going to eat. You know what I mean? And so other races had their other types of programming. But mind you, where I was at was level 1. There was hardly any politicking. There was hardly any worry about a race riot or any of that. There were a couple things in the yard, but we had the dopest library. It was like this old portable where when I was in elementary, we had a portable where the 6th graders would go, and it was like this trailer outside of the main building, and the library was so dope. Yeah, guy gives me a TV, man, and 2 days later, I gave it back to him. And he was like, I was like, bro, I'm so grateful to you. I really, really am, but it's interfering in my reading, bro. Remember how I used to say that the books are way better than the movies?
Yeah.
I never believed them until I read Ready Player One, and then I watched the movie. But I get it. You got to take all of this and dumb it down to 90 minutes.
You got to take 10 was probably 10 or 15 hours of screen time, and I got to jam it into 2 hours. It's
So
listen, I tell you, I read a book. I think it was Nelson DeMille. It was called Upcountry.
Okay.
And and it was probably 400 pages, maybe 450 or 500. Actually, it was a really thick. Now that I think about it, that thing was thick. But listen, I'd never read or seen anything. It was probably the first book where it literally I was so into the book that, and the woman character in the book, which is CIA, but she's like not admitting she's CIA, I think, and she's constantly keeps catching her in these subtle lies and stuff, and there would be times I would be reading and I'd be like, I'd have to so upset and I'd close the book and I'd have to walk around my cell like it's like it'd be like you finding out your girlfriend blatantly lied to you. You're so angry. I can't even yell at her. She's a fictional character in a book, but I'm walking around in circles and then I'd be like. Like I'm under enough control, I can continue to read. I'd get down, I'd read a little bit more, and 20 minutes ago, you'd be like, pow! Oh, hell no. She did not. What? If I was this dude, I can't believe he's still with her. I can't believe he hasn't left her in the middle of the fucking jungle. I'm as pissed at him. I'm pissed at him. And then towards the end of the book, it got to be the last 50 pages or 30 or 40 pages. I started feeling sad because I knew it would be over soon. That's how good the book was.
Bro.
Like I was like, this is going to be done soon. What am I going to do when this book is done? I will never get this much entertainment and enjoyment out of another thing the rest of my. I mean, that's how great it was.
Oh, bro, it's true.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Bro,
like,
I know very well.
So into these things.
I used to be like that when I would complete a video game. Like I still play. Like I have a PS5. I still play sometimes. And when I'm finishing a really, really good video game, it's like. Or when I'm finishing a really, really good series. But it was Prison when the first time I learned, oh my God, it's like that with books too. That's why I would fall in love. I would get every Vince Flynn I could get. Vince Flynn was my main go-to. Every Michael Conley I can get. Every John Grisham I can get. You ever heard of Master of the Game by Sidney Sheldon?
I feel like I have. Hey, what about Game of Thrones?
I never read it. I wanted to.
Listen, I had a buddy named Harold Munns. I remember he had gotten like the next book in the Game of Thrones series.
Because it's not called Game of Thrones. It's called something else.
No, but whatever. It's funny because he would tell you what it was, but he would say Game of Thrones because they have made it into a series, but we don't have the series. He's reading the book. And he had the book, and I remember he's walking by me, and I was like, "Hey, bro, what's up?" He's like, "I can't talk to you, bro." He's like, "I just got the whatever from the Game of Thrones," and he'd walk off like, "I'm going to read it. We can't discuss this. I need to," and he'd go and lay down and just lay in bed. And you were like, that's how these guys, they get really, and you understand. You're like, no, I get it, bro.
Hey, listen, man, when I read Master of the Game by Sidney Sheldon, so Master of the Game and Swan Song are the two ones because I call what they call prison classics. It's like, in LA County Jail, California prison, they're like, hey, you get around the readers and they're like, have you read this? Have you read that? Yeah. And the two I remember the most are Sidney Sheldon's Master of the Game and Robert McCannon's Swan Song, who also wrote A Boy's Life. And there was this other guy that wrote a book about the building of a cathedral in Rome. And the book takes place over 400 years.
Bro, you're talking about Pillars of the Earth.
Pillars of the Earth.
And the I think the second one is like the Grapes of Heaven or the Heaven's Grape. I'm sure I got it wrong, but Pillars of the Earth.
I never made it to Pillars of the Earth. Bro, I wish I would have, bro.
It's I want to, what the guy's name is, something the Builder. Listen, because I read the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny you saying that. Haven't really thought about that book since. I was in Vegas, and I went into a coffee shop, got my coffee, was walking by a guy who was sitting there reading Pillars of the Earth.
That's crazy.
And I stopped and I took a 2 step backwards, and I go, "That is an amazing book. It's getting good. It is getting very good." And this guy's like, it's funny too because he's probably in his 30s. Like, who the fuck reads?
Bro.
You know?
Lonesome Dove, have you heard of that one?
Lonesome Dove.
That's
No.
an old Western that's like also one of those prison classics. Like everybody's read.
So
Bro,
what is Pillars of the Earth? What is
It
it?
follows this guy, or really like a family, through the building of a cathedral, because these cathedrals in Europe, they're not built in 2 years. They're not built in 20 years. They're built over the course of 80 to 100 years. And so like there's a builder, he's starving to death, and his wife, I think, and I'm sure I got this wrong, but like does he get a woman pregnant and she has a baby and he knows it's his baby, and the baby they end up giving the baby to the church, and the baby's raised in the church, and he becomes like it follows all these people that are interwoven throughout this 400
I think
years.
it's 400 years,
It's
yeah.
insane but everybody in the whole system and who they're related to. And look, and they're not like, some of them are great characters, some aren't. Some are and horrific things happen to some of these characters. I mean, like it's tears. You're crying watching this. I've been following this kid since he's a little kid, and he just got butchered or whatever happens. It's horrific things that happen, but you're involved in this whole thing, and it takes forever, and it's an amazing
You get
book.
so emotionally ingratiated with these characters. Like Master of the Game by Sidney Sheldon takes place in the beginning is like the 1800s, and it follows this guy who becomes like the great grandfather of the character you end up with.
Okay.
And he's in Africa, and it's either gold or diamonds, but he goes there to find diamonds, and he finds it, and he builds this legacy, he builds this empire. And over the span of the book, you read about him. I think you read about his son. Then you read about like the granddaughter, and then you ultimately get to this lady at the end who's really the master of the game. And I cannot remember her name, but she was so. You ever watch Animal Kingdom?
Yeah.
The drama?
No.
Okay.
I just went to the series.
Phenomenal show. And so Smurf is the main
Oh wait,
character.
Animal? No, of course. Okay, yeah. No, I've watched the whole thing.
So
My wife and I watched the whole
I've watched it twice all the way through.
Of
like
course.
The Office is something I will watch for the rest of my life. And there's other shows like 24 I will watch for the rest of my life. Animal Kingdom.
She's pulling the string. She kind of.
Sometimes I wish I had that Men in Black tool where I can shine and forget everything just so I can go right back to watching these shows again. But yeah, this lady reminds me a lot of Smurf. It's because it's somebody you love to hate. You're watching this lady, and it's like
She's manipulative. And there's other times she's amazing, and then it's funny because it's one of those few shows that the ending is never good, but it was a fitting ending.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's funny is at the moment the way it ended, I felt like you're kind of like, ugh, I don't know, I don't want this to happen or that to happen, but it's kind of like a character that you love and he's a horrible person, and then it ends badly for him, and you're like, oh, I didn't want it to end like that, but you kind of have to remind yourself, well, wait a minute now, he killed that kid.
Yeah.
And he did these horrible things, and he's a horrible
and
person.
Pope was my favorite character.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just the way, it's fitting. Unfortunate, but fitting. I mean, yeah, it was
I've always been into the anti-hero. You know what I mean? Like, I've always been into the person that I think it's very important to be able to look at people beyond the surface. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, yeah, you were selling dope. You were doing all these schemes. You were doing all these scams. And you probably were foolish for doing it because now you're about to miss out on your family for the rest of your life. But you know what? You are a solid dude for not telling on nobody. I can't help but to look at you like that, Now, right now, I drive Uber, and I tell people, bro, don't ever get in my car and having me ride it dirty. I'll have 15 fingers on the stand. I'm not playing with you. I'm not going to jail for nobody, bro. Now, if I'm doing some dirt, I'm not going to tell on you to get myself out of trouble. I just got to take what I got to take. I'm a square now. I don't sell dope, which I never was good at anyway. I don't steal. I don't lie on my taxes. I try to live as honest of a lifestyle as I can and honor my mistakes when I make them. So, like, I had this guy in the car a couple months ago, and we're on the east end of Charleston at the 7-Eleven, because I do private Ubers too. And so he comes up to the car. We've been there for like 10 minutes, bro. And he's like, yo, just give me. I said, bro, it's hot up here, bro. I don't play all this. Like, I'm not trying to be sitting up here, bro. Mm-hmm. He's like, all right, man, I'm sorry. I was like, it's good, bro. Just like, come on, bro. And he gets into the car, and next thing I know, this other dude that looks homeless is getting in the back of the car. And I can say that because I was homeless. People's feelings will be okay. The other dude gets in the back of the car. And next thing I hear is like, man, you got any Chris? Dude was like, nah, but I was like, bro, y'all can get the about my car right now. Like, don't play with me. And there's like, man, I'm sorry. He's like, you ain't gonna give me a ride. I was like, I'm gonna still give you a ride, bro, but don't ever do that to me, bro. And you ever have people when they know you're mad at them, try to like create random conversations that have nothing to do.
Yeah.
You know, what you think about? I was like, all right, bro. And I didn't want to be a jerk to him, but it's like, my kids did not have a father for years.
Right. I can't let your shit fuck me up.
Never.
Right.
Never. So it's like, I've never put my hands on a woman in my entire life. But if you think ever that a woman is going to put the hands on the mother of my children, especially if I know she did nothing wrong, I will knock you out. Now, more than likely, I'm going to use my mouth, or I can restrain you because I'm a big dude. But like I tell my boys, if I ever see you put your hands on a female, you're going to have to fight me. But if they're trying to jump your sister, we protect family at all costs.
Right.
Every other principle flies out the window. So, yeah, man, we can't allow, and even with the enabling, you know, I've definitely been enabled. I remember the first time I showed up to my mom's house, it was 2:30 in the morning. It was probably snowing. It was cold. And she cried as she would not let me in her house in the middle of the cold because I had just stole from her like a couple days prior and got caught. And even though my life didn't take a positive turn after that for years, I always think back to that moment. That was like maybe the first time that the wheel started spinning. Like, oh, you got to be responsible for your own choices, bro. You know what I mean? And so like even with prison, I started developing these little curriculums in prison and teaching myself stuff. And I get out of prison, I had to wear an ankle monitor and I had to go to Long Beach. Now at this time, you couldn't work for 60 days. You couldn't get a phone for 30. And I had called my sponsor immediately. Well, I called a guy that I had known. He agreed to sponsor me. So now I'm working the steps. I get a little job at a gas station. This program was called MCRP, Men's Community Release Program. So it was essentially like a halfway house work release program. I had to turn all my checks over. We couldn't cash our own checks. We were only allowed to have access to 25% of our own money at any given time. And it was only for toiletries and bus fare. Weren't allowed to smoke cigarettes. Weren't allowed to send money to the kids because they were teaching us, you got to learn how to take care of you first. Now, if we provided proof like, hey, look, man, I got 2,500 saved up. My kids need 1,200 or they're out in the streets. They would work with you.
Yeah.
But I didn't need none of that. And so I remember I got that job at the gas station and I just told myself, bro, I'm going to show up on time. I'm going to add value and I'm going to live an honest lifestyle. I added so much value to that gas station with customer service that when COVID hit, which was January 2020, now we were technically still incarcerated, so the state of California would not let us leave. So we all had to quit our jobs. So a couple months goes by, I get released 1 month early in April of 2020. I'm going to Hollywood to a sober living. And I'm literally delivering food on a bike for Postmates, which is very similar to DoorDash and Grubhub. And the gas station called me. Now, this is in Bell Gardens, which is like, it was taking like 30, 45 minutes to get out there on a bus or on a train. And so they called me, was like, hey, you want to come out here and pump gas? Because we're starting a full service gas pump service so that people don't have to touch the pumps. I said, shoot it. Because I added so much value there and because I was honest, the first time a guy gave me a cash tip, I took it straight to my boss. I said, hey, what do you want me to do with this? He said, that's all you, buddy. I made an extra $300 a week in cash tips, which isn't a lot, but coming out of prison, I'm, making $12 an hour. I get these little extras. I'm able to drop that money off at the bank every day. And another time I went to a rehab just to share my story. Now, when I do shares for like AA, I don't share poetry. I don't do all that. It's just like you don't share financial advice from the podium. It's what's your story? How'd you get sober? But poetry's a part of my story. And so at the end, they asked me to share some poetry and I did it. And they were like, hey, do you mind to come back every week and like do some creative writing classes? I said, absolutely. For free. I don't need no money from you. I just want to add value to the lives of other people. And it automatically adds value to your life. So as I'm going back and I'm teaching creative writing, I also develop other curriculum. I start learning about Maslow hierarchy of needs. I found a creative way to teach that. In prison, I developed a thing called the forgiveness practice, which when my mom told me that my dad wasn't my real dad at 18, I tried to forgive her. I knew what the Bible said about forgiveness. I had enough empathy towards her that I wanted to forgive her. But a lot of the times we've been indoctrinated with this false ideology that how I feel doesn't matter. And because of that, we supersede how we really feel for how we want to feel. So it's like, if you were to hurt me and I want to forgive you, I won't even worry about processing how I actually feel. Oh, I forgive you. And it's like being a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound sometimes. So as I'm, during these creative writing classes, I'm creating this curriculum, I realize the thing I used to tell people in Skid Row was keep your crown on, king, keep your crown on, queen. I got to jail, I drew the symbol up, and I was like, man, I don't know what is here, but this is something. And I always wanted to get back to that Jimmy the poet that performed and talked to kids and did public speaking. So as I'm in this rehab coming back every Tuesday, my sponsor was like, you can get paid to teach groups in rehabs, right? So I come out of prison, bro, I'm making $60 an hour teaching groups in rehabs. Now, that was independent contract work, so it wasn't like 40 hours a week benefits. But nonetheless, bro, I'm coming out of prison. Remember when we talked about transferable skills? Now, this same mouthpiece that I used to get out of a cop car and feed some stories, I'm now using the same mouthpiece to teach people on how to get sober. You know what I mean? And so for the last couple of years, I've just been building up and figuring out what's going to become of the Keep Your Crown On project, because the mission statement is teaching emotional intelligence and processing trauma through creative expression. Because when I started teaching these groups and rehabs, I said, why are we not preemptively giving these tools to adolescents? Remember the DARE program? Just Say No?
Yeah.
Well, they failed for 3 reasons. One, they tried to convince us smoking pot wasn't fun, and we realized that's a lie. What else are they lying about? They're trying to tell a bunch of kids with a whole bunch of trauma that just saying no works. And yeah, that does work for some. And while Nancy Reagan's telling us to say no, Ronald Reagan and his cronies are bringing it into the streets of LA through Iran-Contra. And so just telling a bunch of kids, oh, this is bad, you shouldn't do it. Okay, cool. But you go back and look at Maslow's, you get a 12-year-old kid that comes home with a mom that's addicted, a father that's not there. They're moving from place to place. He doesn't have clean clothes. The love and belonging is already out of whack. They're not primed to have good self-esteem, you know what I mean? And so it's like with everything that I've ever gone through, I'm not tripping, bro. I'm grateful my dad beat my mom. I know. I'm grateful that I was homeless in Skid Row. I'm grateful that I know what it's like not to be a father. Because now sometimes when I randomly post on Facebook, hey, kings, these boys need you, I don't have to come at them like, you need to be a good dad. I can come at them like, I know what it's like to think that the kids don't care about you no more. I know what it's like to be in that guilt and shame. I've been there, but I promise you they need you. So every experience that I've ever had, I'm not tripping on, because it's been given to me, because I feel like, was it God's perfect will for me to smoke crystal on the streets of LA? Probably not. But I think he's blessed it to say, I trusted you to go through it. Now use this same gift, use these same experiences to go help some of my other kids that are going through it. And if I can help another person that's gone through it, it makes it all worth it to me. I'm not tripping. I'm Jimmy the Poet from the west side of Charleston, West Virginia, and this is a piece called Message from the Maker. I understand your pain and fear. My son shed blood like you shed tears. So please believe I truly see how difficult it is to be like me. But I inspire you to see that it's a lot less stressful, plus worth it, to aspire to be me instead of everyone else you admire and envy. They're not perfect and they're all gonna expire within the time I've given. So if it's in you I'm living, it's because I chose to. I know the thorns seem thickened, but it's within you I rose through. You see, I don't create junk, because if I did, you think I sent my only son for them to pierce his rib, for me to shed my blood? The most delicate element never developed, embellished, so that with you I can share this love? Nah. So let me pose to you a question. If after creating Pinocchio, which you know to be a blessing, he jumps off the table, comes the life start disrespecting himself. He hates the mirror, so he spends his whole life correcting himself. And you know that as his father sending a couple blessings would help, but like the rest of himself, it gets rejected as well. So what would you do as his maker? The creator just disrespected creation. How would you feel as his creator? Send him a savior, right, to save his life? Take away his sin, put him in a robe, white as snow. He says it's appreciated, but that boy Pinocchio, his nose still grow and grow. So why do we lie to ourselves? We claim we want Jesus, but won't die to ourselves. It seems to me like we only alive for the wealth and prosperity, but what's scaring me is the way they deliver that whole package is a lie in itself. We ain't blessed and prosperous for our own desires. It's so his kingdom could be advanced, so we can snatch sinners out the fire. So if it's within our acceptance that his death and resurrection was to win our affection, then why every time he blesses, we disrespect him? And if we think that's crazy, that ain't it. The craziest is all he's ever asked from us is a relationship. But men and women, we as well, have fell victim to a plot and plan of lies that have been devised to have us kill ourselves. Because we're pursued by an enemy who's misconstrued our identity. And he's had us for thousands of years as practice. You see, we bear the Father's image. So all Satan had to do, pervert our perception of our Father in heaven. And since the beginning, that's basically his number one tactic, strategies of warfare.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching the video. Listen, we're going to put all of Jimmy's links in the description box. Please go to him, check him out, check out what he's doing. Please support him. I really appreciate you guys watching this, and thank you very much. See ya.